Hello everyone, and welcome to the Fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Naruto was the Shadow Sage Ranger from the future N. Naruto x Gen Scott's x Kira Ford Power Rangers. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. Temporal Fracture. Silver Hills shimmered beneath the afternoon sun, its gleaming skyscrapers casting long shadows across the business district. The city's normal rhythm of commerce and commuter traffic had frozen mid-beat. Civilians stood motionless in mid-stride, a businessman's coffee suspended in air where he dropped it, birds hanging impossibly still mid-flight. Only 5 Figu Res moved through this temporal photograph, 4 wearing the distinctive uniforms of the Time Force Rangers, and the 5th, their quarry, a chrono thief who'd stolen experimental technology from the year 3000. Jen Scott's pink Time Force Ranger tracked the fugitive's bio-signature on her chronometer as she coordinated her team through the comm system. Wes, he's heading toward the financial plaza. Trip, circle around the eastern perimeter. Lucas and Katie, maintain position at the evacuation points in case he breaks the time freeze. Copy that, came the synchronized responses. Jen moved with practiced precision, her years of temporal enforcement experience evident in every calculated step. The chrono thief was dangerous not for his combat abilities but for the cascading damage his technology could cause to the timestream. She'd tracked dozens like him before, but something about today's readings troubled her. The temporal distortions were registering anomalies she'd never encountered. The air rippled 20 meters ahead of her position, a disturbance entirely distinct from the localized time freeze. The ripple expanded, molecules of air vibrating at impossible frequencies until they tore open, creating a perfect circular portal 3 meters in diameter. The event radiated energy signatures unlike anything registered in the Time Force database. Jen raised her chrono blaster, taking cover behind a frozen delivery truck. Unknown temporal breach in Sector 7. All Rangers converge on my position. The portal's edges stabilized, its center a swirling vortex of indigo and gold energy. A figure emerged, tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in what appeared to be a modified black and orange combat uniform with unusual armor elements. Most striking was the crimson cloak that flowed around him, emblazoned with black flame patterns along its hem. Jen's tactical assessment was immediate. Male, approximately 30 years old, Asian features, unusual facial markings, and brilliant blue eyes that surveyed the frozen cityscape with alert intelligence. His right hand bore some kind of specialized gauntlet with both technological and unexplainable components. Despite his sudden appearance, he moved with the relaxed confidence of someone who knew exactly where and when he was. Identify yourself, Jen commanded, weapon trained steadily on the intruder. The man turned toward her, revealing blonde hair and what appeared to be ceremonial markings on his face. When he smiled, it contained equal parts relief and weariness. Jennifer Scott's pink Time Force Ranger. His voice carried an accent she couldn't place. I've been looking for you specifically. My timing systems must have worked correctly after all. The casual use of her full name put Jen further on edge. How do you know who I am? Are you from Time Force? Not exactly. The stranger raised his hand slowly, showing he wasn't reaching for weapons. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I've come from. He paused, appearing to reconsider his words, another timeline. One that intersects with yours approximately 7 years from this point. Before Jen could respond, her chrono scanner blared with proximity alerts. The chrono thief had doubled back, likely sensing the temporal disturbance. He rounded the corner, his stolen technology clutched in one hand, a destabilizer weapon in the other. Time Force. He snarled, raising the weapon toward Jen. Today's the day your luck runs out. 3 things happened simultaneously. Jen dove for cover, the destabilizer discharged a pulse of destructive energy. And the stranger, Naruto, moved with impossible speed. One moment he stood 10 meters away, the next he materialized between Jen and the energy blast. Instead of striking him, the energy seemed to bend around an invisible field surrounding his body. His hands formed unfamiliar gestures in rapid succession. Fuden. Repulsion sphere, he stated calmly. The deflected energy blast reversed direction, striking a mailbox near the chrono thief, who barely dodged the counterattack. The criminal's eyes widened with a mixture of shock and rage. "What the hell are you?" he demanded, adjusting settings on his destabilizer. Naruto stepped forward, his movements fluid and measured. "Someone you really don't want to fight." The chrono thief disagreed, firing 3 successive blasts. This time, Naruto didn't deflect them. Instead, he simply wasn't where the blast struck. His speed defied everything Gen had witnessed, even among enhanced beings from the future. Then he was directly before the criminal. The stolen technology extracted from the man's grasp so smoothly it seemed to teleport into Naruto's hand. The thief lashed out with a desperate punch, only to find his arm caught in a casual grip. "I don't have time for this," Naruto said, his tone almost apologetic. He pressed 2 fingers against the man's forehead. "Sleep." The chrono thief's eyes rolled back, and he collapsed unconscious to the pavement. Naruto turned, extending the recovered technology toward Gen, who had emerged from cover with her chrono blaster still trained on him. "I believe this belongs to your organization," he said. "The temporal oscillator prototype. Pretty dangerous in the wrong hands." Wes, Trip, Lucas, and Katie converged on the scene, weapons ready, forming a perimeter around the stranger. Gen studied him carefully, noting how he showed no concern at being surrounded by armed rangers. "Stand down," she instructed her team, though she kept her own weapon ready. "He just helped us capture the thief." "That's putting it mildly," Wes commented, eyeing the unconscious criminal. "I've never seen anyone move that fast outside of a time force jump." "That's because he wasn't using temporal technology," Trip observed, his green hair contrasting with the gem on his forehead that glowed faintly. "It was something else entirely." Naruto stood patiently as they discussed him, showing neither impatience nor concern. When Gen finally approached to take the stolen device, he relinquished it without hesitation. "You said you were looking for me specifically," Gen said, stirring her weapon but maintaining a professional distance. "Why?" "Because in my timeline, you were one of the few people who believed me when I arrived with warnings about a catastrophic event." His expression darkened momentarily. "An event that's already beginning, even now." "What kind of event?" Lucas asked skeptically. "Dimensional collapse," Naruto replied, his tone grave. "The barriers between realities are weakening. My world and yours share a connection that goes deeper than anyone realized, and that connection is being exploited." He glanced around at the frozen cityscape. "We should talk somewhere more secure. When your time freeze ends, there will be complications." Gen considered her options. Protocol dictated that unidentified temporal anomalies should be contained and reported to Time Force headquarters. But something about this man's certainty, the advanced nature of his abilities, and the genuine concern in his eyes gave her pause. "The clock tower," she decided. "After we process the criminal." Naruto nodded. "I'll meet you there." He took 3 steps back, then vanished in a swirl of leaves and golden energy, leaving no trace of his presence. "Okay," Katie said, breaking the stunned silence. "That wasn't normal time travel." "Nothing about him registered as normal," Trip agreed, studying readings on his scanner. "The energy signature was unlike anything in our database." Gen stared at the space where Naruto had disappeared. "Let's secure the prisoner and the technology. Then we find out exactly what kind of threat we're dealing with." The Silver Hills Clock Tower stood as a relic of earlier times amid the city's modern architecture. The Time Force Rangers had converted its upper level into an operational base, concealed from the public. See and equipped with technology from the year 3000. As Gen climbed the wooden stairs, she found Naruto already there, examining the wall of monitors with quiet interest. "How did you get in?" she demanded, noting that none of their security systems had been triggered. Naruto turned, a slight smile crossing his features. "Sorry about that, shinobi habit." "Shinobi?" Wes questioned as he entered behind Gen. "Ninja," Naruto clarified, "though that term probably doesn't mean what you think in my world." The other rangers filed in, surrounding Naruto in a loose semicircle, not threatening, but certainly cautious. Gen noted how he positioned himself. Back to the wall, clear sightlines to all exits, relaxed stance that could shift to combat readiness in a heartbeat. This was someone trained for situational awareness beyond even Time Force standards. "You mentioned dimensional collapse," Gen prompted, getting straight to business. Explain exactly what that means and what evidence you have. Naruto nodded, appreciating her directness. He removed a small device from one of his utility pouches and placed it on the central table. With a gesture, it projected a three-dimensional holographic display showing multiple overlapping spheres of energy. In my world, we have an energy system called chakra, a combination of physical and spiritual energy that flows through all living things. Masters can manipulate it to perform what you might call supernatural abilities. He manipulated the hologram, highlighting one of the spheres. Your world has what you call the morphing grid, the energy network that powers rangers across multiple dimensions. Trip leaned forward, fascinated. How do you know about the morphing grid? That's highly classified information, because in approximately 7 years from now, our teams discovered these two energy systems weren't just similar. They were originally one unified cosmic force that split eons ago. Naruto expanded the hologram, showing the spheres moving closer together. Now they're being forcibly reunited by an entity with access to both. The result is catastrophic dimensional fracturing. What kind of catastrophe are we talking about? Lucas asked, arms folded skeptically. Naruto's expression darkened as he adjusted the hologram. The simulation showed the energy spheres colliding, creating cascading failures across multiple planes of existence. Total dimensional collapse, realities bleeding into each other, laws of physics breaking down. His voice remained steady, but his eyes revealed the weight of witnessed tragedy. In my timeline, we lost Konoha, my home village, in the first wave. 3 million people, gone in an instant when our reality partially merged with a dimension of pure antimatter. The simulation showed cities disintegrating as energy waves passed through them, the visualization chillingly clinical despite the horror it represented. How far in the future does this happen? Jen asked, her tactical mind already calculating response options. The first major breaches began 7 years from now, but the smaller fractures, Naruto gestured to another section of the hologram, they're already starting. The chrono thief you were chasing. The temporal freezing technology isn't supposed to work in this era. It's only functional because of weakening dimensional barriers allowing your tech to operate outside its proper timeline. Wes frowned. That would explain why we've had 3 instances this month of technology working that should be neutralized by timeline protection protocols. Exactly. Naruto closed the hologram with a gesture. I came back to this specific point because historical records showed this was when the first measurable weakening occurred. I need to assemble a team with experience in both energy systems. And you expect us to just take your word for all this? Lucas challenged. Rather than answer directly, Naruto reached into another pouch and withdrew a small, weathered journal. He handed it to Jen. This is your personal log, from my timeline. You gave it to me before. He hesitated. Before you sent me on this mission. Jen opened the journal cautiously, finding pages filled with her own handwriting, notes, calculations, and observations she had never written. The final entry chilled her. April 17, 3007. The Silver Hills breach has expanded beyond containment. Chronopolis is evacuating to secondary timeline. Naruto's plan is our last viable option. If he can prevent the initial fractures from the past, all our calculations show the dimensional cascade might be prevented. I've given him all the data we have. May time protect him, because none of us can anymore. Asterisk. The signature at the bottom was undeniably hers, down to the distinctive way she crossed her T's. This could be fabricated, Jen said, though her voice lacked conviction. It could, Naruto acknowledged. But I can prove the dimensional weakening another way. He turned to Trip. Your scanners detected unusual energy readings from me earlier. If you calibrate to temporal frequency 157.3 and scan again, you'll find something that shouldn't be possible. Trip exchanged glances with Jen, who nodded permission. He adjusted his scanner and pointed it toward Naruto. The device immediately emitted a high-pitched warning tone. That's impossible, Trip muttered, checking the readings. You're simultaneously existing in multiple timelines. The scanner shows temporal overlap. Not temporal, Naruto corrected. Dimensional. I exist in my home dimension and yours simultaneously because I'm anchored to both. It's what allows me to travel between them. Jen studied him with new intensity. What exactly are you? You're clearly not just a shinobi. Naruto smiled slightly. That's complicated. In my world, I'm the 7th Hokage, the leader of my village and one of the strongest ninja alive. But I'm also something else. He raised his right arm, revealing the gauntlet-like device on his wrist. It resembled a morpher but with unfamiliar symbols and components. I'm what my world calls a Jinchuriki, a human vessel containing a powerful entity of chakra. And in this world, the device on his wrist glowed with golden energy that spiraled around his arm. I'm what they call the Shadow Sage Ranger, master of natural energy across dimensional boundaries. Before anyone could respond, an alarm blared from the central console. Trip rushed to check it. Massive energy spiked downtown. It's unlike anything we've encountered. The Mon. Atur showed a plaza where reality itself seemed to warp and tear. From the distortion emerged grotesque creatures, part mechanical, part organic, with components that seemed to phase in and out of normal space. Chronomorphs, Naruto stated grimly, foot soldiers created from the dimensional fracturing. They're drawn to timeline irregularities. Like a localized time freeze. Katie asked. Exactly. Your operation created a beacon for them. Wes was already moving toward the exit. Whatever they are, we can't let them hurt civilians. Wait, Naruto warned. Normal ranger abilities won't be fully effective against them. They exist partially outside your dimension. Then what do you suggest? Jen demanded. Let me show you what a Shadow Sage Ranger can do. Downtown Silver High. LLS descended into chaos as the chronomorphs materialized fully. 12 humanoid figures with distorted limbs and faces that occasionally glitched like digital malfunctions. Their bodies appeared TLY mechanical with organic components that pulsed with sickly purple energy. Where they touched the ground, reality rippled as though struggling to accommodate their existence. Time Force Rangers AR arrived at the scene to find civilians fleeing in terror. The chronomorphs' attacks left strange temporal distortions. A car struck by one creature began aging rapidly until it rusted away to nothing. A fountain hit by another froze mid-splash, water solidifying not as ice but as time itself stopped flowing through it. Time for Time Force, Wes called out as they activated their morphers. In synchronized movements, the Rangers transformed, armor materializing around them in flashes of color. They moved to engage the creatures, only to discover Naruto's warning was accurate. Their weapons passed partially through the chronomorphs, dealing minimal damage. Our attacks aren't fully registering. Lucas called out, his chrono saber passing through a creature that seemed to phase partially out of reality. Jen attempted a different approach, adjusting her weapon's frequency. Try modulating your attacks through different temporal bands. The adjustment helped marginally, allowing them to repel the creatures but not defeat them. The Rangers formed a defensive perimeter around civilians caught in the plaza, but found themselves steadily losing ground as more chronomorphs phased into existence. Where's our mysterious visitor now? Katie grunted as she physically threw one creature back, only for it to distort midair and land unharmed. As if in answer, a surge of golden energy cascaded into the plaza. Naruto appeared atop a nearby fountain, his presence commanding immediate attention. The chronomorphs turned toward him, their movements becoming more frenzied, as though recognizing a significant threat. They're drawn to me, Naruto observed, his voice carrying to the Rangers. Good. That's what we want. He raised his right arm, the device on his wrist glowing with intensifying energy. Unlike the Rangers' transformation sequence, what happened next defied easy classification. Natural energy visibly gathered around him. Leaves swirled upward from the ground, water droplets hung suspended in air. And golden light mixed with what appeared to be swirling wind chakra. Shadow Sage Mode. Activate. The transformation wasn't just a costume change, it was a fundamental shift in Naruto's energy signature. Armor materialized around his body, predominantly black with orange and crimson accents, resembling a fusion of traditional shinobi combat gear and ranger armor. His helmet formed last, featuring a stylized fox motif with markings reminiscent of his facial features. Around him, the crimson cloak transformed as well, now appearing to be made of energy rather than fabric. The chronomorphs charged toward him simultaneously. Naruto moved with fluid grace that defied human limitations. Each strike landed with precision, his fists and feet leaving trails of golden energy that seemed to anchor the creatures fully into this dimension upon contact. He's forcing them to fully materialize in our reality, Trip realized, scanning the battle. The energy he's emitting stabilizes the dimensional fluctuations around them. Naruto fought with a style none of the Rangers recognized, a seamless fusion of traditional martial arts, acrobatic maneuvers, and techniques that manipulated energy itself. He formed hand signs that created duplicates of himself, perfect copies that fought with identical skill until they were dispelled by enemy attacks. Shadow clones, he explained between strikes. Rangers, adjust your weapons to frequency 628.9. That should synchronize with my energy signature. Jen made the adjustments first, her Chrono Blaster now emitting a modified energy signature. When she fired, the beam carried traces of the same golden energy surrounding Naruto. This time, when it struck a chronomorph, the creature fully materialized before disintegrating into particles of light. It's working, she called to her team. Make the adjustments. As the Rangers modified their weapons, Naruto escalated his attack. He leapt to the center of the remaining chronomorphs. His right hand extended outward. Energy spiraled in his palm, forming a rotating sphere of power. Rasengan. The impact created a shockwave of stabilized energy that forced all nearby chronomorphs into complete materialization. The Rangers capitalized immediately, their coordinated attacks destroying 3 creatures in quick succession. The remaining chronomorphs began to retreat, attempting to phase back out of reality. Naruto wasn't allowing it. Sage Art. Dimensional Anchor. Golden chains of energy erupted from the ground, wrapping around the creatures and binding them to this reality. Completely materialized and unable to escape, they fell quickly to the combined Ranger attacks. As the last chronomorph disintegrated, Naruto released his transformation, the Shadow Sage armor dissipating into particles of light. The Rangers gathered around him, a new respect evident in their postures. That was. Wes struggled to find adequate words. Incredible, Trip finished. The energy readings were off the charts, but somehow controlled with precision I wouldn't have thought possible. Naruto looked fatigued but satisfied. The chronomorphs are just symptoms. They appear wherever dimensional barriers weaken. He turned to Jen. This is just the beginning. They'll keep coming, in greater numbers and stronger forms, as the barriers continue to deteriorate. Jen had removed her helmet, her expression thoughtful as she processed what she'd witnessed. Your fighting style, it wasn't just power. Every move had purpose, like you've been battling these things for years. 5 years, Naruto confirmed, since the first major breach. Before that, I spent 2 decades fighting other threats to my world. A shadow crossed his features briefly. War changes how you approach combat. Efficiency becomes more important than spectacle. Before further discussion could continue, Trip's scanner beeped urgently. Another energy signature just appeared, but it's different. More concentrated. Location is, he checked the coordinates, 15 kilometers west of here. Already, Naruto's expression turned grim. They shouldn't be able to create focused incursions this early in the timeline. What are we dealing with now? Jen asked. Something worse than foot soldiers. We need to move. The western industrial district of Silver Hills stood largely abandoned. Its warehouses empty monuments to economic shifts years earlier. The Rangers arrived to find a single figure standing amid the concrete and steel wasteland, humanoid but obviously not human. Its body appeared to be a fusion of technological components and organic matter, with a face partially covered by a metal mask. Purple energy coursed through visible veins across its form. Most disturbing was how reality itself seemed to warp around it, colors shifting unnaturally and surfaces rippling as though seen through heat waves. What is that thing? Katie whispered as they observed from cover. A dimensional commander, Naruto answered quietly. Elite soldiers created to establish beachheads for larger incursions. The creature turned toward their position, suggesting enhanced sensory capabilities. When it spoke, its voice resonated on multiple frequencies simultaneously. Shadow Sage detected. Primary target acquired. Naruto straightened, stepping from cover. It's me you want. The Rangers aren't part of this. Incorrect assessment, the commander replied. All defenders of dimensional integrity are targets for elimination. Lord Zed Maru's directives are absolute. Jen noticed Naruto's minute reaction to the name. Lord Zed Maru. You know this entity. He's the one responsible for the dimensional collapse, Naruto confirmed, his voice tight with controlled emotion. A being from my world who discovered how to harness morphing grid energy and fuse it with chakra in ways that destabilize reality. The commander extended its arm, which transformed into a cannon-like appendage. Surrender is not an option. Termination is the only protocol. It fired a beam of purple energy that distorted space itself along its path. Naruto pushed J.N. aside and formed hand signs with blinding speed. Earth-style. Mud wall. A barrier of solid earth erupted from the concrete, intercepting the beam. Rather than destroying the wall, the energy CA used portions of it to age rapidly while others reversed to raw minerals. The entire structure glitched in and out of reality before collapsing. Rangers, morph now, Naruto commanded as he activated his own transformation. The Time Force Rangers morphed in unison as the Shadow Sage armor materialized around Naruto. This time, he added an additional element to his transformation, his blue eyes shifted to golden with horizontal bar pupils, and orange pigmentation appeared around his eyes beneath the helmet. Perfect Sage mode, he explained to the questioning looks. I'll need it for this opponent. The commander attacked with unprecedented speed, moving faster than ordinary human perception. Only the Rangers' enhanced senses within their armor allowed them to track its movements as it launched a barrage of strikes at Naruto. The Shadow Sage matched its speed perfectly, blocking and countering with precision that spoke of vast combat experience. Each exchange created shockwaves of energy that cracked the concrete beneath them. The Rangers moved to surround the commander, firing coordinated blasts from multiple angles. The creature responded by generating a dimensional field that warped their attacks, sending them veering off into distorted trajectories. One redirected blast nearly struck Wes, who barely dodged in time. Our standard tactics aren't working, he called out. Naruto disengaged from direct combat, landing beside Jen. We need to synchronize our attacks. The dimensional field can't distort energies that are perfectly aligned. How do we do that? Jen asked, pragmatic as always. I'll channel my chakra through your weapons. When I give the signal, fire everything you have. He turned to the others. Wes, Lucas, Katie, keep it distracted. Trip, I ed you to analyze its field frequencies and relay them to Jen. Without waiting for acknowledgement, Naruto created 5 shadow clones that engaged the commander from different angles. The real Naruto placed his hand on Jen's chrono blaster, channeling golden energy into the weapon. The process continued for each ranger in turn. The commander destroyed the shadow clones one by one, each dispelling in puffs of smoke. As it turned its attention back to the Rangers, it found them positioned in a perfect pentagram formation, their weapons glowing with combined chakra and morphing grid energy. Now, Naruto called out. 5 synchronized energy beams struck the commander simultaneously, each perfectly calibrated to penetrate its dimensional field. The creature attempted to distort the attack, but found the energies resistant to manipulation. The beams converged at its center mass, creating a chain reaction of stabilized reality that prevented dimensional phasing. Naruto seized the opportunity, charging forward with another spiraling sphere of energy in his palm, larger than before and visibly containing multiple elemental chakra natures. Sage Art. Massive Rasengan. The impact was cataclysmic on a localized scale. The commander's form distorted, stretched, and then compressed as the attack forced it fully into this dimension while simultaneously destroying its physical form. It let out an unearthly cry that echoed across multiple frequency bands before disintegrating into particles of light. Silence fell across the industrial district, broken only by the settling of disturbed debris. Naruto's transformation dissipated as he dropped to one knee, clearly taxed by the effort. Jen approached first, offering a hand up which he accepted with a grateful nod. You've done this before, she observed. Worked with Rangers, I mean. Many times, he confirmed. In my timeline, we eventually formed a unified defense force combining shinobi and Rangers. We called it the Dimensional Guardian Initiative. And it wasn't enough, Lucas asked, the skepticism in his voice tempered by what he'd witnessed. It was working, Naruto said quietly. Until Lord Zed Maru found he nexus points, places where our dimensions naturally intersect. Once he corrupted those, his voice trailed off, the pain of memory evident. Trip was examining readings from the battle site. Commander mentioned Lord Zed Maru by name. If he's already giving directives in this timeline, Then he's already here, Naruto finished grimly. And he knows I've arrived. What exactly is he? Wes asked. You mentioned he's from your world. Naruto's expression darkened. He was once one of our greatest enemies, an Otsutsuki clan member named Momoshiki who sought to harvest all chakra in our dimension. We defeated him, or thought we did. Somehow his essence survived, drifting between dimensions until it encountered remnants of your enemy, Lord Zed. Lord Zed was purified years ago, Jen pointed out. His evil essence was cleansed when he became human. Not entirely, Naruto countered. In our research, we discovered fragments of his essence remains scattered across the morphing grid. Momoshiki found those fragments and merged with them, creating a hybrid entity with knowledge of both energy systems. He took the name Lord Zed Maru to honor his predecessor, and to mock my world's naming traditions. Katie frowned. So we're facing a super-powered alien merged with one of the most powerful villains in Ranger history. That's not great odds. No, Naruto agreed. It isn't. But we have one advantage. He managed a small smile. I know his plan now, and we're 7 years ahead of where we were in my timeline. We can stop him before the dimensional collapse reaches critical levels. Jen's communicator beeped with an incoming transmission. After a brief exchange, she turned to the others with renewed urgency. Time Force is detecting another temporal anomaly. It's bigger than anything we've encountered, and it's not in Silver Hills. Her eyes met Naruto's. It's in Reefside. Reefside, Wes repeated. Isn't that where the Dino Thunder Rangers operate? Naruto finished. Specifically, it's where we'll find Kira Ford. We need her expertise in sonic energy manipulation. Why her specifically? Jen asked. Because sonic frequencies can stabilize dimensional barriers temporarily. In my timeline, her abilities were key to creating the technology that allowed us to fight back. He glanced at the setting sun. We need to move quickly. If chronomorphs are appearing in Reefside, it means another nexus point is activating. Trip checked his scanner. The readings are different from the chronomorphs we faced here. They're more concentrated. The Chakra Syndicate, Naruto muttered. They're moving faster than they did in my timeline. The what? Lucas asked. Rogue ninja who learned to weaponize morphing grid energy. They work for Lord Zed Maru as advanced scouts. Naruto turned to Jen. We need transport to Reefside immediately. The clock's running faster than I anticipated. Jen studied him for a moment, her years of experience in temporal enforcement making her naturally cautious about altering timelines. But the evidence before her, the chronomorphs, the commander, and Naruto's demonstrated knowledge, left little room for doubt. Time Force has protocols against interfering with other Ranger teams without authorization, she said finally. But, Naruto prompted, recognizing the tone in her voice. But these aren't normal circumstances. Jen activated her communicator. Circuit, prepare the time jet. We're heading to Reefside. She looked back at Naruto. If we're really facing dimensional collapse, we're going to need all the help we can get. As they headed toward their transport, Naruto felt a familiar sensation, the subtle disturbance in natural energy that indicated he was being watched from another plane of existence. Somewhere, across the dimensional barrier, Lord Zed Maru had sensed his arrival. The race against dimensional collapse had begun. Chapter 1 End Chapter 2, Dino Thunder Resonance. Sunset painted Reefside's coastal cliffs in amber and gold as waves crashed rhythmically against the shoreline. The cyberspace cafe had transformed for the evening into an intimate venue, its usual tech-friendly atmosphere subdued by mood lighting and the expectant murmur of the crowd. A small stage dominated one end of the space, minimalist in its setup, a microphone stand, an acoustic guitar on a stand, and a simple stool. Haley Zichter, the cafe's owner, adjusted the sound levels one final time before addressing the packed room. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to Reefside, fresh off her West Coast tour, our hometown's own rising star, Kira Ford. The applause was genuine and enthusiastic as Kira stepped onto the stage. At 25, she carried herself with the quiet confidence of an artist who had found her voice. Her honey blonde hair fell in loose waves past her shoulders, and her outfit, black jeans, boots, and a vintage yellow leather jacket over a band, reflected her evolution from teenage rebel to professional musician who hadn't forgotten her roots. Thanks for coming out tonight, she said into the microphone, her smile warm but slightly reserved, the expression of someone more comfortable expressing herself through music than words. It's good to be home for a while. She settled onto the stool, picked up her guitar, and began to play. Her voice had matured since her Ranger days, gaining depth and control while maintaining its distinctive character. The song spoke of journeys, of leaving and returning changed, themes that resonated deeply with her own experiences. From a corner table partially hidden in shadow, a pair of watchful eyes observed with unusual intensity. The woman was striking in her understated way, tall and athletically built with sharp features and midnight black hair pulled back in a severe ponytail. Her clothing was nondescript dark colors, but something about her posture suggested military precision. Most notable was the small tattoo visible on her wrist when her sleeve shifted, a spiral pattern that would mean nothing to the cafe patrons but would be instantly recognizable to any shinobi from Konoha. Miyuki Yamashiro sipped her tea, never taking her eyes off the former Yellow Ranger. Her assignment was simple: observe and assess, nothing more. Direct contact was expressly forbidden until the Shadow Sage gave the signal. Still, she couldn't help but compare the young woman before her to the legendary figure described in the historical archives, the Sonic Master whose techniques had own required study at the academy before its destruction. Outside the cafe, reality rippled subtly along the coastline. The distortion would have been imperceptible to ordinary senses, but it read clearly on the specialized equipment aboard the time jet approaching reefside airspace. Dimensional fluctuations increasing, Trip reported from his console aboard the Time Force transport. Similar pattern to Silver Hills, but more focused. Naruto stood behind him, studying the readings with practiced eyes. The holographic display showed energy patterns that twisted and intertwined in ways that shouldn't be possible in normal space-time. They're targeting her specifically, he observed. The Chakra Syndicate knows about her sonic abilities. How could they? Jen asked from the pilot's seat. If they're from your future, they shouldn't know which Rangers exist in this time period. Unless they have the same historical records I do, Naruto replied grimly. Lord Zed Maru had access to the combined archives of both worlds before the collapse. It's how we learned about the connections between our dimensions in the first place. The time jet descended toward reefside, its cloaking systems engaged to avoid civilian detection. As they approached the coastline, Naruto's expression tightened. There, he pointed to what appeared to be normal cliff face. That distortion isn't natural. Lucas squinted at the indicated location. I don't see anything. Your eyes aren't attuned to natural energy, Naruto explained. In Sage mode, I can sense disruptions in the flow of energy around us. He closed his eyes briefly, orange pigmentation appearing around his eyelids. When he opened them again, his blue irises had shifted to golden with horizontal bar pupils. There are 7 individuals materializing along the coastline. Their chakra signatures are wrong. Corrupted. Corrupted how? Wes asked. They've integrated morphing grid energy directly into their chakra networks. Naruto's expression was troubled. It's dangerous and unstable, like injecting nuclear energy directly into your bloodstream. They gain immense power but at the cost of their humanity. Jen brought the craft to hover above a clearing near the coastal road. What's the plan? We can't just burst into a crowded venue if Kira's performing. We won't have to, Naruto said, his GHTENED senses picking up new information. The syndicate is waiting for her to finish. They want to isolate her from civilians. He checked a device on his wrist that resembled a more compact version of his morpher. The concert ends in 12 minutes. We need to intercept before they make contact. You seem to know an awful lot about what these guys are planning, Lucas noted, suspicion edging his voice. Naruto met his gaze steadily. Because I fought this exact battle in my timeline, but we were too late. Kira was severely injured, and it took months for her to recover enough to help us. His voice softened with old regret. I've lived through the consequences of our failures. I don't intend to repeat them. The simple honesty in his tone silenced further questions. Jen activated the transport's exit ramp. Time Force Rangers, move out. Standard perimeter formation, non-lethal containment protocols. She turned to Naruto. I assume you have your own approach. He nodded, already moving toward the exit. I'll make first contact with Kira. The syndicate knows me. They'll focus on me when I appear, giving you time to position yourselves. How will we know when to engage? Wes asked. Naruto smiled slightly. Trust me, it'll be obvious. With that, he stepped off the ramp and simply vanished, not with technological assistance or dramatic effect, but with the casual ease of someone slipping between shadows. I really need to learn how he does that, Lucas muttered. Dash dash dash. Applause filled the cyberspace cafe as Kira finished her final song. She took a modest bow, annoyingly touched by the hometown reception. After signing a few autographs and exchanging quick hugs with former classmates, she packed her guitar and headed for the rear exit. Haley intercepted her, with a bottle of water and a proud smile. That was amazing, the older woman said. Your new material is your best yet. Kira returned the smile. Thanks. It helps having actual life experience to write about now, instead of just high school drama. Speaking of drama, Haley lowered her voice. Any ranger business I should know about? Ethan mentioned something about unusual energy readings when he was in town last week. Nothing confirmed, Kira replied carefully, conscious of civilian ears nearby. But I've been feeling something. Like the air before a thunderstorm. Haley nodded, understanding. Well, you know where to find us if you need backup. Once a ranger, always a ranger, Kira completed with a small smile. I know. Thanks, Haley. She slipped out the back door into the cool evening air. Guitar case slung across her back. The parking lot was mostly empty, her yellow compact car waiting beneath a single streetlight. The normality of the scene, just a musician, leaving after a gig, struck her with its precious simplicity. These moments of ordinary life had become more valuable after her time as a ranger. Kira was halfway to her car when that precious normality shattered. The air before her rippled like heat waves rising from asphalt, but it was a cool spring night. Her ranger instincts, dormant but never truly gone, flared to life. She dropped her guitar case and shifted into a defensive stance just as the distortion solidified into a humanoid figure. The man, if he could still be called that, wore what appeared to be modified shinobi battle gear in muted purple and black. His face was partially concealed by a mask, but visible portions showed unnatural pallor and veins that pulsed with purple energy. Most disturbing were his eyes, solid black with pinprick pupils that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Kira Ford, he stated, his voice carrying an unnatural resonance as though speaking through multiple vocal cords simultaneously. Your presence is required. Kira took a step back, her hand instinctively moving toward her wrist where her denomorpher had once been. Its absence was a stark reminder of her vulnerability. I don't know who or what you are, she replied, keeping her voice steady, but, your presence is required, is literally never a good opening line. The figure tilted his head slightly, the movement too smooth to be natural. Compliance is not optional. Lord Zed Maru has designated your sonic manipulation abilities as necessary resources. Before Kira could respond, 5 more figures materialized in a semicircle around her. Each bearing the same unnatural features and pulsing energy. Their synchronized movement suggested hive mind coordination. Okay, she muttered, this is definitely ranger business. With no morpher and no backup, Kira relied on the one power that had always been hers, even before becoming a ranger. She took a deep breath and unleashed her Terra scream, the sun. IC attack that had been enhanced by her ranger powers but originated from within her own genetic makeup. The sound wave visibly distorted the air as it struck the figures. They staggered backward, ire forms temporarily destabilizing as though the sonic frequency interfered with whatever kept them solid. It wasn't enough to defeat them, but it bought her precious seconds. She used the opening to dive toward her car, keys already in hand. Before she could reach it, a new distortion appeared directly in her path, but this one was different. Golden energy spiraled outward rather than the sickly purple of her attackers. From this vortex stepped a tall man with blonde hair and facial markings, dressed in what appeared to be a fusion of battle armor and traditional Japanese clothing, a crimson cloak billowing around him despite the still air. Kira skidded to a halt, finding herself caught between mysterious attackers and an equally mysterious newcomer. Who the hell are you people? She demanded, backing away from both parties. The blonde man's eyes met hers, startlingly blue and filled with what she could only describe as recognition. Kira Ford. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I'm here to help. The lead attacker straightened, his attention shifting entirely to the newcomer. Shadow Sage detected. Primary target located. All units engage. Shadow Sage. Kira repeated, confusion evident. Look, I don't know what's happening, but... Duck. Naruto called out sharply. Kira's combat reflexes took over. She dropped flat as a pulse of purple energy passed through the space where she'd stood. Naruto moved with impossible speed, appearing between her and the attackers. His hands formed unfamiliar signs in rapid succession. Wind style. Vacuum wall. A barrier of visible, swirling air formed before them, intercepting 3 more energy pulses. The attacks didn't bounce off the barrier. They were absorbed into the swirling vortex, their energy dispersed harmlessly. What was that? Kira asked, wide-eyed as she rose to her feet. Ninjutsu, Naruto replied, maintaining the barrier. And those are the Chakra Syndicate, think of them as interdimensional mercenaries. He glanced at her over his shoulder. Your scream earlier, can you maintain it for longer periods? Maybe. I've never tried for more than a few seconds. It strains my vocal cords. Naruto nodded understanding. When I give the signal, hit them with everything you've got. Focus on the frequency that made them destabilize. And why should I trust you? Kira challenged, practical despite the bizarre situation. A small, appreciative smile crossed Naruto's features. Because Time Force Rangers are positioning themselves around this location as we speak, and because in about 10 seconds, I'm going to drop this barrier and engage 6 enhanced combatants to protect you. His eyes met hers directly. But mostly because you've always trusted your instincts, and right now they're telling you I'm not the threat here. The simple truth of his last statement struck Kira silent. Her instincts, honed through battles against Mesogog's forces and countless life-threatening situations, were indeed telling her this stranger was trustworthy, despite the absurdity of the situation. The syndicate members spread out, attempting to flank their position. Naruto's hands shifted to new signs. Now would be good, he called to seemingly empty air. From multiple directions came rapid-fire energy blasts, precise shots that forced the syndicate members to break formation. The Time Force Rangers appeared from concealed positions, morphed and weapons ready. Time Force. Jen called out as her team engaged the flanking enemies. Naruto dropped the wind barrier and formed another set of hand signs. Shadow Clone Jutsu. In puffs of smoke, 3 perfect duplicates of Naruto appeared, each moving independently to intercept different attackers. Kira stared in disbelief as the clones engaged in combat with skill that spoke of decades of training. How are you doing that? She demanded. Long story, the original Naruto replied, remaining beside her. Ready for that scream. The lead Syndicate member broke through the Rangers' perimeter, moving with unnatural speed toward them. Purple energy gathered around his hands, forming crackling blades of corrupted chakra. Yes, Kira answered, determination replacing confusion. Now, Kira unleashed her terror scream directly at the approaching attacker. Simultaneously, Naruto formed a single hand sign and placed his palm against her back. Chakra resonance technique. Something extraordinary happened. Kira felt a surge of energy flow through her, not suppressing her natural ability but amplifying it. Her scream visibly transformed, golden energy intertwining with the sound waves as they struck the syndicate leader. The impact was catastrophic for the attacker, his form destabilized completely, purple energy dispersing as his physical form disintegrated into particles of light. Kira stopped, shocked both by the result and the lack of strain on her vocal cords. What did you just do? I channeled my chakra through your natural energy pathways. Naruto explained. Your sonic abilities are actually a form of natural vibrational manipulation, similar to techniques from my world. The remaining syndicate members, seeing their leader destroyed, attempted to retreat. They shifted toward the dimensional rifts they'd emerged from, but found their escape blocked by a new development. The rifts themselves were closing. From the shadows of the parking lot stepped Miyuki Yamashiro, her hands forming signs similar to Naruto's. Her expression remained impassive as she systematically sealed the dimensional pathways one by one. Dimensional access prohibited, she stated coldly. Surrender or be eliminated. The syndicate members chose neither option, instead charging toward the Rangers with suicidal determination. The battle was brief but intense. the Time Force Rangers working in perfect coordination while Naruto's shadow clones provided support from multiple angles. Within minutes, all attackers had been neutralized, their forms dissolving into the same particles of light. As the final enemy disintegrated, silence fell across the parking lot. Kira found herself surrounded by 5 morphed Time Force Rangers, multiple copies of a blonde ninja, and a mysterious woman in dark clothing who regarded her with analytical detachment. "Okay," she said finally, breaking the silence. "Would someone like to explain what the actual hell is going on?" The Rangers powered down to their civilian forms. Jen stepped forward, ever the leader. "Ms. Ford, I'm Jennifer Scott's Time Force. We need to talk somewhere secure." Naruto dismissed his shadow clones, each vanishing in a puff of smoke. He turned toward Miyuki with a questioning look. The woman merely inclined her head slightly. "I was maintaining surveillance as ordered, Shadow Sage," she said formally. Intervention was not planned but became necessary when the Syndicate attempted dimensional retreat. "Thank you, Miyuki," Naruto replied, his tone suggesting a complex relationship. He turned back to Kira. "We have a lot to explain, and not much time to do it." Kira looked from him to the Time Force Rangers to the mysterious Miyuki, then to her guitar case still lying on the pavement. With a resigned sigh, she picked it up. "Let me guess, the fate of the world is at stake." "Worlds," Naruto corrected gently. "Multiple ones. Dr. Tommy Oliver's basement laboratory had served as Ranger headquarters during the Dino Thunder days. Now it functioned as a research facility where Tommy studied Ranger history and technology when not teaching high school science. The space had expanded over the years, filled with secure display cases containing artifacts from various Ranger teams and advanced computer systems monitoring energy signatures across Reefside. Tommy himself was away at a paleontology conference in London, but had long ago given Kira emergency access codes. The assembled group, Kira, the Time Force Rangers, Naruto, and the still silent Miyuki, gathered around the central computer station where Trip had interfaced his future tech with Tommy's systems. "Dimensional breaches are stabilizing," he reported. "Whatever she did," he gestured toward Miyuki, "it sealed the pathways temporarily." Temporarily being the operative word, Miyuki stated, speaking more than 2 words for the first time since her appearance. Her voice carried the same formal precision as her posture. "The seals will degrade within 72 hours as dimensional pressure increases." Kira leaned against a workbench, arms crossed defensively. "I still don't understand what any of this has to do with me. Those guys said something about my sonic manipulation abilities being a resource." "They weren't being metaphorical," Naruto explained. He activated a small device similar to the one he'd used on the Time Jet, projecting a holographic display in the center of the room. The visualization showed 2 distinct energy patterns, one blue, one yellow, that twisted and intertwined in complex patterns. "The blue energy represents what my world calls chakra, a combination of physical and spiritual energy that flows through all living things. The yellow represents what your world calls the morphing grid, the extra-dimensional energy network that powers all Ranger abilities." Kira studied the display with growing interest despite her skepticism. "And these are connected somehow. They were once a single unified cosmic force," Naruto continued. "But somewhere in the distant past, a cataclysmic event split them across dimensional boundaries. Your sonic abilities are rare because they exist at the intersection of these energies. You can naturally manipulate the vibrational frequencies that connect both systems." "What he's saying," Jen translated, recognizing Kira's overwhelmed expression, "is that you have a natural ability that can help stabilize the weakening barriers between dimensions." "Which is exactly why the Chakra Syndicate targeted you," Naruto added. "In my timeline, a possible future 7 years from now, Lord Zedmaru used corrupted sonic frequencies to accelerate the dimensional collapse. You were one of the few people who could counter that effect." "Your timeline?" Kira questioned. "You're from the future." "A future," Naruto clarified. "One where our worlds begin merging catastrophically, causing reality itself to break down. I came back to prevent that by assembling key individuals who can help strengthen the dimensional barriers before they reach critical failure." Kira ran a hand through her hair, processing the information. "This sounds insane." "No offense. None taken," Naruto replied with a small smile. I'd think the same in your position. Trip turned from the computer terminal. Dr. Oliver's systems are detecting increasing energy fluctuations throughout Reefside. They match the patterns we saw in Silver Hills before the chronomorphs appeared. Then we don't have much time, Naruto said. He turned to Kira with renewed intensity. What you felt when I channeled chakra through your sonic attack, that was just a fraction of what's possible. With training, you could generate frequencies that would stabilize dimensional boundaries across entire regions. I'm not a scientist or a ninja or whatever, Kira protested. I'm a musician who used to be a ranger. How am I supposed to learn this chakra stuff overnight? Not overnight, Naruto acknowledged. But you already have the foundation. Your connection to the morphing grid through your Dino gem created pathways similar to chakra networks. It's why your sonic abilities persisted after you lost your active ranger powers. Jen stepped forward. We're not asking you to decide immediately. But those attackers won't be the last. The syndicate knows where you are now. Kira's expression hardened slightly. So I help you or become a target. That's not much of a choice. There's always a choice, Naruto said quietly. We can help you disappear. New identity, new location. Time Force has protocols for temporal witnesses. But then who saves everyone else? Kira challenged. If what you're saying is true, and dimensions are collapsing, running away doesn't solve the problem. A ghost of a smile touched Naruto's lips. That's the Kira Ford I remember from the historical archives. Always putting others before herself. Quote, the casual reference to her being in historical archives seemed to finally bring home the reality of the situation for Kira. She pushed away from the work NCH and approached the holographic display, studying the intertwining energies with new determination. If I help you, and that's still an if, what exactly would I need to do? Learn to channel chakra through your natural abilities. Naruto explained. Develop techniques that can stabilize dimensional boundaries. And help us locate other individuals with similar potential. Other rangers. Some rangers, yes, but others with unique connections to either the morphing grid or chakra networks. Naruto adjusted the display to show a map with several illuminated points. We need to assemble a team with complementary abilities before Lord Zed Maru corrupts the Nexus Points. Nexus Points. Locations where our dimensions naturally intersect, Miyuki explained, stepping forward. Her movement was graceful despite her rigid posture. They function as anchors between realities. If corrupted, they accelerate dimensional collapse exponentially. Kira studied the mysterious woman more carefully. And you are Miyuki Yamashiro, Anbu Black Ops Commander from Konoha, 7th Hokage Protection Detail. She inclined her head slightly. I followed the Shadow Sage through the temporal rift to provide intelligence and support. The Shadow Sage being. Kira looked at Naruto. Me, he confirmed. It's a title, not my name. In my world, I'm known as the 7th Hokage, leader of my village and one of the strongest ninja alive. But I'm also something this world calls a Power Ranger, specifically, the Shadow Sage Ranger, with abilities that bridge both energy systems. To demonstrate, he raised his right arm, revealing the device that resembled a morpher but with unfamiliar symbols. Golden energy spiraled around it, forming intricate patterns that resembled both circuit designs and organic symbols. So you're a ninja who's also a ranger, Kira summarized, her tone suggesting how absurd it sounded despite everything she'd experienced in her own ranger days. From the future, here to prevent dimensional collapse by teaching me to use ninja powers with my sonic scream. That's surprisingly accurate, Naruto admitted with a slight smile. Kira sighed deeply, then squared her shoulders. Tommy is never going to believe this. She fixed Naruto with a direct gaze. I'm not committing to anything long-term yet. But I'll help you deal with the immediate situation in Reefside. After that, we'll see. That's all we can ask, Jen said with an approving nod. Naruto seemed about to respond when Trip's equipment emitted an urgent alert. The green-haired ranger quickly analyzed the readings. Multiple energy signatures emerging throughout Reefside. Pattern matches chronomorphs but with stronger dimensional stability. The main computer screen displayed security camera feeds from across the city, showing distortions appearing in public areas, the park, the shopping district, even Reefside High School's grounds. From each distortion emerged creatures Similar to those the Rangers had faced in Silver Hills, but with more defined features and what appeared to be weaponry integrated into their limbs. They're more evolved than the ones we encountered, Wes observed grimly. The dimensional barriers are weaker here, Naruto explained. It allows them to manifest more completely. He turned to Kira. It seems your training begins now. Are you ready? Kira's expression shifted from uncertainty to determination, the look of a ranger accepting the call to duty once more. What do I need to do? The Central Park of Reefside had transformed F.R.O.M. peaceful green space to evacuation zone as police attempted to clear civilians from the advancing chronomorphs. 12 of the creatures moved in perfect synchronization, they're partially mechanical. Forms glitching occasionally as they fired energy pulses that distorted reality wherever they struck. A fountain hit by one pulse aged rapidly into ruins, a tree struck by another reversed to a sapling in seconds. From the perimeter, the Time Force Rangers coordinated evacuation efforts while Naruto, Kira, and Miyuki observed the situation from an elevated position near the park's eastern edge. There are too many civilians still in the danger zone, Miyuki reported, her analytical gaze sweeping the scene. Direct engagement will increase casualty probability. We need to draw them away from the populated areas, Naruto agreed. He turned to Kira. Your sonic attack got their attention before. Can you use it to lure them toward the abandoned quarry north of here? Kira nodded, determination overriding her lingering doubts. I think so. But will they follow? They're drawn to dimensional anomalies, Naruto explained. When you channel chakra through your sonic abilities, it creates exactly the kind of signature they're programmed to investigate. He placed a hand on her shoulder. What I'm about to teach you would normally take weeks of training. We have minutes. Are you ready? Do I have a choice? She asked wryly. There's always a choice, he replied seriously. But I believe you can do this. Something in his confidence, not arrogance, but genuine belief in her capabilities, steadied Kira's resolve. She nodded. Show me. Naruto positioned himself behind her, placing one palm against her upper back between her shoulder blades. Close your eyes and focus on your breathing. Imagine the energy that powers your scream. Where does it come from within you? Kira complied, concentrating on the familiar sensation that preceded her sonic attack. It starts as a pressure behind my sternum, then rises through my throat. Good. That's your body's natural energy pathway, similar to what we call chakra channels. His voice remained calm and instructive. Now, you'll feel something unusual. I'm going to send a small amount of my chakra into your system. Don't resist it. Try to direct it toward that pressure point you described. Kira felt it immediately, a warm, almost electric sensation flowing from his palm into her back, spreading through her torso like liquid sunshine. It wasn't invasive or uncomfortable, but profoundly foreign, energy that clearly wasn't hers yet somehow felt compatible with her own natural abilities. That's weird, she managed, maintaining her concentration. Focus on directing it upward, following the same path your sonic energy takes. She visualized the foreign energy merging with her own, guiding it through the familiar channel toward her throat. As the energies combined, she felt a resonance building, as though her vocal cords were vibrating at multiple harmonized frequencies simultaneously. I feel it, she said, her voice carrying a subtle harmonic undertone even in normal speech. Perfect, Naruto encouraged. Now, when you release your scream, don't force the energy out all at once. Modulate it, like holding a note while changing its pitch. Like vibrato in singing, Kira realized, drawing on her musical training. Exactly. Ready, she nodded, eyes still closed as she maintained concentration on the merged energies. Now, Kira opened her eyes and released her terror scream, but unlike her previous sonic attacks, this one manifested as a visible wave of golden-tinged sound energy. The harmonics were complex and multi-layered, creating patterns in the air as the sound traveled. Most importantly, she could sustain it, modulating the frequency as Naruto had instructed. The effect on the chronomorphs was immediate and dramatic. They all stopped their advance on civilians, adds turning in perfect unison toward the source of the sound. Their movements became erratic, as though the frequencies disrupted whatever coordination system guided them. It's working, Miyuki observed. Their dimensional signatures are fluctuating. Naruto removed his hand from Kira's back, but to her surprise, the chakra flow continued. Keep going, he encouraged. Start moving toward the quarry. They'll follow the frequency. Kira began walking backward, maintaining the modulated scream. The strain was nothing like her usual sonic attacks. Instead of depleting her energy, this Tekken IQ seemed to generate its own sustainability, creating a feedback loop between her natural abilities and the chakra Naruto had introduced to her system. The chronomorphs followed as predicted, moving away from civilians toward the source of the dimensional disturbance. Gen coordinated with local authorities via communicator. The targets are being redirected to the northern quarry. Maintain EV evacuation protocols but shift resources to creating a perimeter around that area. As they reached the edge of the park, Kira finally released the scream, taking a deep breath. That was, I don't even have words for what that was. Impressive as what it was, Naruto said, genuine appreciation in his voice. Most people can't channel external chakra on their first attempt, let alone maintain control of it. The chronomorphs are continuing toward the quarry, Miyuki reported. Their programming is locked onto the residual frequency pattern. Then let's beat them there and prepare the welcome party, Naruto suggested. He turned to Kira. We'll need to contain them once they arrive. Think you're up for a second round. Despite the bizarreness of the situation, Kira found herself smiling slightly. Weirdly enough, yes, that didn't drain me like my normal scream does. Chakra, when properly channeled, enhances rather than depletes natural energy, Naruto explained as they moved quickly toward the quarry. Your body is already adapting to it, creating new pathways. Is that safe? She asked, suddenly concerned about the foreign energy in her system. Completely. Your connection to the morphing grid through your former ranger powers prepared your body for this kind of energy integration. He glanced at her with reassurance. I wouldn't have attempted it otherwise. As they traveled, Kira studied Naruto more carefully. There was something oddly familiar about him despite his clearly foreign origins, a quality she couldn't quite place but that inspired trust despite the circumstances. In this future you come from, she ventured, did we know each other? You seem to understand my abilities better than I do. A complex emotion flickered across Naruto's features. Something between nostalgia and regret. We worked together closely for several years developing sonic stabilization techniques. You were instrumental in our efforts to slow the dimensional collapse. The careful way he phrased his answer suggested there was more to that relationship than professional collaboration. Before she could inquire further, they reached the edge of the abandoned quarry, a massive excavated pit surrounded by equipment left behind when the mining operation shut down years earlier. Gen and the other rangers arrived moments later, having traveled by time force cycles. Chronomorphs will reach this position in approximately 2 minutes, Trip reported, checking his scanner. They're maintaining pursuit formation. Perfect, Naruto said. He turned to the group. Here's the plan. Kira will use her enhanced sonic attack to destabilize them. Rangers, you'll need to adjust your weapons to frequency 628.9 that will synchronize with the chakra-infused sound waves and allow your attacks to fully materialize the chronomorphs in this dimension, making them vulnerable to conventional weapons, Wes concluded with an approving nod. Exactly. Miyuki will establish a dimensional barrier around the quarry to prevent escape. The black-haired woman nodded once, already moving to strategic positions around the perimeter. Her hands formed rapid sequences of F signs as she placed what appeared to be small paper talismans at cardinal points. What about you? Kira asked Naruto. I'll be amplifying your sonic attack with my own chakra. Together, we should generate enough harmonized energy to disrupt their coordination systems. He studied her with a measuring gaze. This will feel different from before. I won't just be channeling chakra into your system. I'll be synchronizing my energy with yours. It's a more intimate connection. The way he said intimate carried no romantic implication, but rather suggested a deeper level of energy merging than their previous attempt. Still, Kira felt herself flush slightly at his choice of words. I'm ready, she said, pushing aside the momentary awkwardness. They positioned themselves at the quarry's edge as the first chronomorphs appeared on the horizon, moving with eerie coordination toward their location. The Time Force Rangers formed a defensive perimeter, weapons calibrated to Naruto's specifications. Miyuki completed her preparations, the paper talismans glowing with blue energy that connected in a dome-like structure over the quarry. Dimensional barrier established, she reported. 78% containment capability. It'll have to do, Naruto said. He moved to stand directly behind Kira, placing both hands on her shoulders this time. Focus on the source of your sonic energy again. This time, don't just accept my chakra, reach for it, like you're grabbing a musical note from the air. Kira closed her eyes, concentrating on the internal pressure that powered her scream. When she felt Naruto's chakra flow into her system, she mentally reached for it, drawing it toward her core rather than simply letting it flow naturally. The resulting sensation was unlike anything she'd experienced, as though her consciousness expanded beyond the boundaries of her physical form. She became acutely aware of Naruto's presence behind her, not just physically but energetically. She could sense the vast reserves of power within him, carefully controlled and channeled with precision born of decades of training. Most surprisingly, she caught glimpses of something else. Emotions and memories that weren't hers. A village hidden among massive trees. The weight of responsibility for thousands of lives. Pride in accomplished students. Deep grief for lost comrades. And a fox-like entity of immense power that regarded her fleeting awareness with curious interest. Focus, Kira, Naruto's voice brought her back to the present moment. The chronomorphs are here. She opened her eyes to see the 12 creatures had reached the quarry's edge. They moved in perfect unison, their partially mechanical bodies glitching occasionally as they assessed the threat before them. Now, Naruto commanded. Kira released her scream, but what emerged bore little resemblance to her previous sonic attacks. This was a complex waveform of visible sound energy, golden chakra twined with yellow morphing grid power in intricate patterns. The air itself seemed to crystallize in the sound's path before shattering into harmonic particles. The chronomorphs reacted violently, air-coordinated movement breaking down as the sound waves disrupted their dimensional stability. Parts of their bodies fully materialized while others became more transparent, creating a stuttering effect in their appearance. Rangers, engage, Gen ordered. The Time Force Rangers opened fire with their calibrated weapons, each shot striking with precision. Where their energy beams intersected with Kira's sonic attack, the chronomorphs fully materialized, becoming solid, vulnerable targets. Naruto maintained the energy flow, his chakra merging seamlessly with Kira's natural abilities. Through their connected consciousness, he provided subtle guidance: shift the frequency higher. Now lower. Focus on the central cluster. Kira followed his mental instructions instinctively, Modu, letting her scream to target different groups of enemies. The sensation was exhilarating. Power flowing through her that enhanced rather than drained her natural abilities, precise control that her musical training made intuitive. The chronomorphs began to fall, their fully materialized forms disintegrating under the combined ranger attacks. As their numbers dwindled, the remaining creatures attempted to escape, only to encounter Miyuki's dimensional barrier. They clawed at the energetic boundary, causing fluctuations in its stability. Barrier integrity at 42%, Miyuki report. Calmly despite the strain evident in her posture. Recommend accelerated elimination procedures. Naruto responded by increasing his chakra flow. Kira felt the surge like a wave of warm sunlight through her system. One final push, his thoughts suggested in her mind. Full harmonic convergence. Understanding intuitively what was needed, Kira reached for the highest note in her range while simultaneously maintaining the lowest undertone she could produce. The resulting sonic attack split into dual frequencies that created a dissonant chord impossible for human vocal cords to generate naturally. The effect was devastating to the remaining chronomorphs. Caught between harmonically opposed frequencies, their partially dimensional forms collapsed completely, unable to maintain coherence in either reality. Within seconds, all 12 had disintegrated into particles of light that faded into nothingness. As the last enemy dissolved, Kira finally released her scream, drawing in a deep breath. To her surprise, she felt invigorated rather than exhausted. The chakra Naruto had channeled through her seemed to have revitalized her natural energy rather than depleting it. He removed his hands from her shoulders, the deeper connection fading but not disappearing completely. Some residual awareness of his energy remained, like the memory of a song lingering after the music stops. That was, she began, searching for adequate words. Exceptional, Naruto completed, genuine appreciation in his voice. Your control exceeded anything I expected for a first attempt. Miyuki deactivated her barrier, collecting the paper talismans as she approached. The dimensional frequency patterns have been recorded for future reference, she reported to Naruto. Her harmonization capabilities are consistent with historical records. Kira glanced between them. I still have so many questions. That connection. I saw things. Memories that weren't mine. And something that felt like an entity watching me. Naruto's expression turned thoughtful. The connection goes both ways. My chakra carries imprints of my experiences and connections. He hesitated briefly. What you said was Kurama, the nine-tailed fox spirit sealed within me. He's part of what makes me a Jinchuriki. You have a spirit fox, inside you? Kira asked, trying to process this new information. That's the simplest explanation, yes. Naruto smiled slightly. He's not just a spirit, but a sentient being of immense chakra. We've been partners for most of my life. The Time Force Rangers joined them. Having confirmed no chronomorphs remained. The local authorities have established a perimeter, Gen reported. Official story is a gas leak causing hallucinations. Standard protocol for unexplainable phenomena. Some things never change, Kira murmured, remembering similar cover stories during her ranger days. Trip was examining readings from the battle. The sonic chakra combination created a temporary stabilization effect on the dimensional boundaries. Fluctuations have decreased by 63% throughout Reefside. It's working, Naruto said with cautious optimism. But it's only temporary. Without addressing the root cause, the dimensional weakening will continue. Kira studied him thoughtfully. This Lord Zed Maru you mentioned, he's the root cause. He's exploiting natural weaknesses that already existed, Naruto clarified. But yes, he's accelerating the process deliberately. In my timeline, he succeeded in corrupting 4 of the 5 major nexus points before we could stop him. And the 5th? Naruto exchanged a meaningful glance with Miyuki before answering. The 5th nexus point isn't a location. It's a person. Before Kira could ask the obvious follow-up question, Lucas's communicator beeped with an incoming transmission. Energy signature detected at Reefside High School, he reported after listening briefly. Different pattern from He chronomorphs. More focused and stable. The syndicate, Miyuki stated, already moving toward the quarry exit. They're establishing a forward base at the school. Why there? Wes questioned. Because it sits on a minor nexus point. Naruto explained grimly. The same reason drive. Oliver found Dino gems in that area. Dimensional boundaries are naturally thinner there. Kira's expression hardened at the mention of her former school. Then we need to stop them. I know that building better than anyone. All the secret passages, the underground labs, everything. Naruto nodded approval. Your knowledge will be crucial. But you should know, what we faced here was just the advance guard. The forces at the school will be much stronger. Then I'll need to be stronger too. Kira met his gaze directly. Teach me more about this chakra. If my sonic abilities can help stabilize dimensions, I need to understand exactly how they work. Something like pride flickered in Naruto's eyes, not paternal or condescending. But the recognition of a kindred spirit rising to a challenge. We'll start immediately, he agreed. But first, there's someone else we need to locate. Someone whose abilities complement yours perfectly. Another ranger? Gen asked. Yes, but not just any ranger. Naruto's expression turned solemn. We need to find Kurone, the former Astronema, now the Pink Galaxy Ranger. Her experience with cosmic energy manipulation is essential for what comes next. Kira's eyes widened slightly. The woman who was once the princess of evil. She's part of this. In my timeline, her understanding of dark cosmic energies was crucial to developing countermeasures against Lord Zed Maru's techniques. Naruto's gaze grew distant, as though seeing memories from that alternative future. And her journey from villain to hero provided insights none of us could have discovered otherwise. How do we find her? Wes asked practically. The Galaxy Rangers operate primarily off-world. To everyone's surprise, it was Miyuki who answered. I have already initiated contact protocols through secure channels. Based on historical data, She is currently on Earth visiting former teammates. Naruto raised an eyebrow at his companion. You didn't mention that earlier. Miyuki's expression remained impassive. You didn't ask, Lord Seventh. The formal title contrasted with the subtle insubordination in her tone, suggesting a relationship more complex than simple military hierarchy. Hira caught the brief smile that tugged at Naruto's lips before he suppressed it. Then we have work to do, he stated, turning back to the group. Hira needs training. We need to secure the nexus point at Reefside High, and we need to prepare for Kurone's arrival. His blue eyes met each of theirs in turn. The dimensional barriers are weakening faster than they did in my timeline. Lord Zed Maru is adapting his strategy. Which means we need to adapt ours, Gen concluded. As they left the quarry, Hira found herself walking beside Naruto. The lingering connection from their energy synchronization left her with an awareness of him that transcended normal perception. She could sense his resolve, his concern, and underlying it all, a profound determination that felt almost familiar, the same quality she'd recognized in Tommy, in herself, in all rangers who stood between innocent lives and unimaginable threats. In this future you come from, she asked quietly, did we succeed? Naruto was silent for several steps before answering. We found a way forward, he said finally. But at a cost none of us were prepared to pay. His blue eyes met hers, carrying the weight of unspoken history. That's why I'm here, to find a better path. Something in his gaze suggested better path, involved her specifically, though in what capacity remained unclear. The thought should have been unsettling, yet somehow it wasn't. Despite the chaos of dimensional threats and mystical energies, Hira felt an unexpected certainty forming within her, a sense that whatever this journey held, it was one she was meant to walk. Reefside High School stood silent and empty in the late evening hours. Its normal teenage population replaced by shadows and moonlight filtering through classroom windows. In the science lab that had once been Drive, Tommy Oliver's classroom, Reality I, TSELF warped and distorted as a dimensional portal stabilized. 3 figures emerged, more human in appearance than the syndicate members encountered earlier, though still bearing the telltale purple energy veins that marked them as dimensional travelers. The leader scanned the room with eyes that glowed faintly in the darkness. Nexus point confirmed, he stated, his voice carrying that same unnatural harmonic quality. Dimensional thinness at optimal levels. Establish the anchor. The other two began unpacking equipment from dimensional pockets, technology that appeared both highly advanced and strangely organic in design. As they worked, the leader activated a communication device that projected a holographic image in the center of the room. The figure that appeared was obscured by shadow and distortion, but its presence carried undeniable authority and malevolence. When it spoke, its voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. Report, Commander Shikra. The leader bowed slightly. My Lord Zed Maru, we have secured the secondary nexus point as instructed. Preparations for the anchor are underway. And the Shadow Sage? The shadowed figure inquired, a note of genuine curiosity in its otherwise emotionless tone. Confirmed present in this timeline, as you predicted. He has already begun assembling allies, the Time Force Pink Ranger and the Dino Thunder Yellow. A sound that might have been laughter emanated from the hologram, though it carried no mirth. So predictable, always believing he can save everyone through the power of friendship and teamwork. The figure leaned forward slightly, its features still obscured but a pair of glowing eyes becoming visible, one purple, one red. Let him gather his allies. It will change nothing. The Yellow Ranger's sonic abilities are concerning, the commander noted. Historical records indicate. I am well aware of what the records indicate, Lord Zed Maru interrupted, his tone hardening. I wrote many of them myself before destroying the archives. Her abilities are formidable but ultimately irrelevant. The dimensional collapse has already begun. The Shadow Sage is merely delaying the inevitable. Understood, my lord. What are your orders regarding their inevitable assault on this position? The shadowed figure seemed to consider for a moment. Allow them their small victory. The anchor needs only 10 minutes to initialize. Once active, it cannot be undone without the key. A pause, then, and deploy the historical contingency at the appropriate moment. I want to see if the Shadow Sage's emotional weaknesses remain consistent across timelines. It will be done, Lord Zed Maru. As the hologram faded, Commander Shikra turned to his subordinates with a cold smile. Accelerate the anchor deployment. Our Lord has granted us the honor of testing the legendary Shadow Sage. One of the technicians looked up from the equipment. And if he brings the sonic user? Shikra's smile widened, revealing teeth lined with the same purple energy that flowed through his veins. Then we'll discover if history truly repeats itself. Outside in the darkness, a figure watched. From the shadows of a tree, Miyuki Yamashiro, her expression unreadable as she observed the syndicate's activities through the science lab window. She formed a single hand sign, her body dissolving into swirling leaves that vanished into the night breeze, carrying crucial intelligence back to her allies. The next phase of the dimensional conflict had begun. Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, Legacy of the Grid. Angel Grove gleamed in the morning sunlight, the modern city's skyline a stark contrast to the weathered mountains that cradled it. For casual visitors, it was simply another Southern California community, pleasant climate, diverse population, thriving downtown. But for those who knew its history, Angel Grove was hallowed ground, the birthplace of Earth's Power Rangers legacy. The city had changed over the decades, rebuilding after numerous monster attacks while subtly commemorating its unique history. A park sculpture of abstract geometric shapes resembled a megazord to knowing eyes. The rebuilt youth center bore a plaque honoring those who protected our community through extraordinary times. To the discerning observer, Angel Grove celebrated its protectors without exposing their identities. On the northern outskirts, nestled against the foothills, the Advanced Planetary Research Institute stood as a monument to the city's forward-thinking approach to the unexplained phenomena of its past. The sleek, modern facility combined government funding with private research initiatives to study extraterrestrial and dimensional anomalies. Within one of the institute's specialized laboratories, Drive, Layla Chen frowned at the fluctuating energy readings on her holographic display. At 32, she had already established herself as one of the world's leading experts in quantum field theory and dimensional physics. Her credentials included 3 doctorates and consulting work for organizations she was legally prohibited from naming. It doesn't make sense, she muttered to herself, pushing a strand of shoulder-length black hair behind her ear. The harmonic resonance patterns shouldn't be synchronizing across disparate energy types. Her dark eyes, sharp with intelligence, tracked patterns within patterns as she manipulated the holographic representation. An alert chimed softly from her workstation. Proximity warning. Unauthorized personnel approaching secure laboratory. The automated system announced. Layla glanced up at the security feed and saw 4 individuals approaching the restricted section. 2 women and 2 men, walking with purpose rather than confusion. Not lost visitors, then. The blond man in particular moved with a confident familiarity that suggested he knew exactly where he was going. She reached for the alert button but paused. The security system added. Facial recognition match. Scots, Jennifer. Time Force authorization protocols activated. Time Force. Layla's eyebrows rose. She knew of the organization only through classified briefings, time travelers from the future who occasionally interfaced with contemporary agencies. Their appearance now, coinciding with the dimensional anomalies she'd been tracking, couldn't be coincidence. Instead of triggering the alarm, she straightened her lab coat and waited. Whatever brought them here, it related to her research. She was certain of it. The Time Force rang. Credentials had granted the team access to the Institute's main facility, but the secure laboratories required additional clearance. Jen led the group through the pristine corridors, her Time Force ID bypassing most security measures. According to our information, Drive, Chen's lab should be at the end of this hallway, she explained, keeping her voice low. Her research on interdimensional energy fields is the most advanced on Earth in this era. Naruto nodded, his eyes constantly scanning their surroundings. The crimson sage cloak was absent, replaced by more conventional clothing, dark pants, a fitted orange and black jacket that still managed to look distinctly foreign despite its modern design. Her work on quantum harmonics was foundational to our dimensional stabilization technology in my timeline. Kira walked beside him, having undergone her own subtle transformation in the days since Reefside. Her musician's attire remained, but she now carried herself with the renewed confidence of a ranger who had rediscovered her purpose. The chakra exercises Naruto had taught her had awakened dormant energy pathways, granting her greater control over her sonic abilities. Still, wrapping my head around meeting someone who'll eventually help create technology that doesn't exist yet, she commented. Time travel makes my brain hurt. Dimensional travel, Miyuki corrected from behind them. The Anbu commander had reluctantly exchanged her traditional shinobi attire for modern clothing, simple black pants and a gray fitted jacket, though she still moved with the unmistakable grace of a trained warrior. The distinction is significant. Timeline alterations create paradoxes, dimensional realignments create harmonized convergence. Kira glanced back at her. You know, for so. Me one who barely spoke 3 words when we met, you've got quite the technical vocabulary. A ghost of a smile touched Miyuki's typically stoic features. Information provision adapts to operational necessities. She means she talks when she needs to, Naruto translated with a subtle warmth in his voice that suggested long familiarity. They reached a reinforced door with multiple security measures. Before Jen could present her credentials, the door slid open, revealing a laboratory filled with advanced equipment. Standing in the doorway was a woman in her early 30s, dark eyes appraising them with intelligent curiosity rather than alarm. Time Force, she stated simply, her gaze shifting from Jen to the others. Along with a former Dino Thunder Ranger, and 2 individuals my systems can't identify. Her direct approach carried no hostility, only professional assessment. I'm Drive, Layla Chen. I'm guessing you're here about the dimensional anomalies my instruments detected 3 days ago. Jen blinked, momentarily taken aback by the woman's calm reception and immediate insight. Yes, that's correct. I'm Jennifer Scott's, Time Force. This is Kira Ford, Yellow Dino Thunder Ranger, Layla completed. Nodding toward her, your sonic resonance frequency readings were part of my doctoral research on non-standard energy manifestations within Ranger power signatures. She turned her penetrating gaze to Naruto. You, however, are completely off my charts. Your energy signature is simultaneously registering in 3 distinct quantum fields, which should be theoretically impossible. Naruto exchanged an impressed glance with Jen before addressing the scientist. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I'm from another dimension where the energy you're detecting is called chakra. May we come in, Dr. Chen? What we need to discuss is rather complicated. Layla studied him for a moment longer, then stepped aside with a gesture of invitation. Complicated is my specialty. And please, call me Layla. Doctor. Makes me feel like I should be writing prescriptions. The laboratory beyond was a marvel of cutting-edge technology. Holographic displays showed energy patterns across multiple locations globally. Equipment hummed with purpose, collecting and analyzing data in real time. Most striking was a central platform where energy patterns materialized as 3-dimensional visualizations that could be manipulated physically. Impressive, Miyuki commented, genuine respect coloring her typically neutral tone. Thank you, Layla replied, appraising the 4th member of their group. And you are? Miyuki Yamashiro, Dimensional Security Specialist. Layla's eyebrows rose slightly at the deliberately vague title, but she didn't press. Instead, she turned to her main display console. 3 days ago, my instruments detected a pattern shift in what I call the universal energy field, the quantum substrate that underpins physical reality. She manipulated the controls, bringing up a visualization showing bright lines of force crisscrossing a 3-dimensional grid. These energy fields have always existed in parallel but separate channels. Until this happened. The display shifted to show the previously separate lines beginning to intersect and intertwine, creating new patterns that pulsed with unstable energy. The barriers between dimensional energy fields are weakening, she continued. Her scientific detachment tinged with concern. At first, I thought it was a localized phenomenon, a quantum hiccup that would self-correct. But the pattern is spreading, and more concerning. It appears to be accelerating along specific pathways. Naruto stepped forward, studying the display with recognition. These are the dimensional fault lines I came here to address. In my timeline, they eventually expanded into catastrophic breaches that destroyed entire regions. Layla's professional composure faltered momentarily. Your timeline. Perhaps we should start at the beginning, Jen suggested. For the next half hour, they briefed Layla on the dimensional crisis, Naruto's journey from a future where realities had begun collapsing, the emerging threat of Lord Zedmaru, the Chakra Syndicate, and their efforts to assemble individuals with unique abilities to address the weakening dimensional boundaries. Throughout the explanation, Layla listened with intense focus, occasionally asking incisive questions that revealed her quick grasp of concepts that should have been entirely foreign to her. When they finished, she didn't express disbelief or demand further proof. Instead, she immediately turned to her workstation and began making adjustments to her equipment. "This explains the quantum resonance patterns I've been recording," she said, pulling up new displays. "I've been trying to model them mathematically, but couldn't establish a coherent framework because I was missing half the equation." She glanced at Naruto. "Your chakra energy system provides the missing variable. You believe us?" Kira asked, surprised by the immediate acceptance. Layla looked up, a wry smile touching her lips. "Ms. Ford, I've spent the last decade studying energy phenomena associated with Power Rangers, alien invasions, and interdimensional incursions. My threshold for unbelievable is considerably higher than most." She gestured toward her displays. "Besides, the data confirms everything you've told me. These energy signatures match perfectly with the temporal distortions my instruments detected in Silver Hills and the sonic harmonic anomalies in Reefside." Naruto approached the central platform, studying the energy visualizations with an appreciative eye. "In my timeline, your research was fundamental to understanding how chakra and morphing grid energy could be synchronized." Layla caught the past tense immediately. A shadow crossed Naruto's features. "The Institute was lost in the third major dimensional breach. You survived, but most of your original research was destroyed." The clinical detachment in Layla's expression faltered as the human implications registered. "I see." She straightened her shoulders, professionalism reasserting itself. "Then I'll just have to work faster this time around." "That's why we're here," Jen explained. "We need to locate what Naruto calls nexus points, locations where our dimensions naturally intersect. If we can stabilize these points, we might prevent the larger breaches from forming." Nexus points. Layla's eyes widened with sudden understanding. That would explain the 5 persistent anomalies I've been tracking. She manipulated her controls, bringing up a global map with 5 glowing locations marked. "These energy signatures remain constant while others fluctuate. I've been trying to determine what makes these locations special." Miyuki stepped forward, her interest evident despite her reserved demeanor. "Your instruments identified all 5 accurately," she observed, studying the map. "The historical records indicated only 3 were known at this point in the timeline. My detection algorithms are more advanced than standard quantum field monitors," Layla explained with understated pride. "I designed them specifically to identify non-standard energy signatures across multiple quantum layers." "That's exactly the expertise we need," Naruto said, genuine appreciation in his voice. "Dr. Chen, Layla, we need your help understanding these nexus points and developing technology that can stabilize them against Lord Zedmaru's corruption." Layla studied him thoughtfully, her analytical mind clearly processing implications beyond the immediate request. "And in your timeline, I agreed to help." "You did more than help," Naruto replied. "You led the scientific division of our unified defense force. Your insights saved millions of lives, even after we started losing ground." Something in his tone, the weight of shared history that hadn't happened yet, seemed to resonate with Layla. She nodded decisively. "Then I'd be foolish to break with successful precedent." She turned to her computer and began entering commands. "I'll need to gather equipment, download my research data, and notify the Institute that I'm taking an emergency leave of absence." "Just like that?" Kira asked. "Don't you need time to think it over?" Layla's hands paused over her keyboard. When she looked up, her expression had shifted from scientific detachment to quiet intensity. "Ms. Ford, my entire career has been dedicated to understanding the energy phenomena that shape our universe. These dimensional breaches represent both the greatest threat and the most significant research opportunity in human history." A small, determined smile appeared. "Besides, I became a scientist to make a difference. Saving reality seems like a worthwhile application of my expertise." Naruto exchanged an approving glance with Jen. "We have temporary headquarters established in Angel Grove Park. It's close to one of the minor nexus points, which will help calibrate your equipment." I'll meet you there in 2 hours, Layla agreed, already returning to her preparations. Awesome. You have facilities for advanced energy monitoring. We've adapted Time Force technology for that purpose, Jen confirmed. It's not as sophisticated as your equipment, but it should provide the basic infrastructure you need. As the others turned to leave, Miyuki remained, studying Layla with newfound interest. Your adaptation speed is remarkable, she observed. Most civilians require significant adjustment periods when confronted with dimensional threats. Layla glanced up, meeting the shinobi's evaluating gaze. I've found that excessive emotional reactions waste valuable analysis time. The universe doesn't care about our feelings, only our actions. The corner of Miyuki's mouth twitched in what might have been approval. A perspective shared by Anbu operational protocols. With a slight nod that somehow conveyed respect, she turned to join the others. Left alone, Layla allowed herself a moment of pure, uncensored scientific excitement. Interdimensional chakra energy, she whispered, eyes bright with intellectual curiosity. Absolutely fascinating. Angel Grove Park had been selected as their temporary base for both practical and symbolic reasons. Its central location provided access to the city's resources while the nearby mountains offered natural shielding for their operations. More significantly, the park itself contained a minor nexus point, the remnant of countless battles where the original Power Rangers had called upon the morphing grid. The Time Force Rangers had established a concealed command center using technology from their era, hidden beneath a holographic projection of undisturbed parkland. Within this space, Naruto had created a training area designed specifically for chakra development, complete with elements familiar to any shinobi of Konoha. Focus on the sensation, not the outcome, he instructed as Kira attempted to channel chakra through her hands. Energy follows intention, but forcing it creates blockages. Kira exhaled slowly, concentrating on the warm flow of energy through her pathways as Naruto had taught her. Over the past week, her progress had been remarkable, her natural connection to the morphing grid providing pathways that adapted quickly to chakra manipulation. A faint golden glow emanated from her palms. I can feel it, she said, maintaining her focus. It's different from before, more responsive. Your pathways are developing, Naruto confirmed, circling her with an instructor's careful eye. Think of it like training a muscle, each exercise strengthens the connection. Across the training area, Jen worked with Miyuki on adapting Time Force technology to chakra integration. The Pink Ranger's analytical approach complemented the Anbu commander's practical experience, creating modifications that would allow their chrono blasters to harmonize with chakra frequencies. The temporal stabilization circuit should theoretically accept chakra input, Jen explained, adjusting components with precision tools. But we need a conductive medium that won't burn out under the energy load. Miyuki removed a small pouch from her equipment. Special metal from our dimension. Chakra conductive alloy developed for Anbu weapons. She carefully extracted what appeared to be metallic wire with faint blue inscriptions along its length. Rare even in our world. I brought limited supplies. Jen mined the material with professional appreciation. This could work. The molecular structure appears compatible with our technology. Their collaborative effort exemplified the team's growing synergy. Different backgrounds and expertise combining to create solutions neither could develop alone. The command center's alert system chimed softly, announcing Layla's arrival. The scientist entered carrying several cases of equipment, which Tripp and Lucas, who had remained with the Time Force transport, immediately helped her arrange. I brought the essentials, she explained, beginning to unpack specialized devices. Quantum field harmonizers, dimensional resonance detectors, and prototype stabilization emitters have been developing. Naruto approached, genuine appreciation in his expression. Your equipment is more advanced than what was available at this point in my timeline. I've had certain insights that accelerated my research, Layla replied with careful understatement. Her gaze met his briefly, suggesting classified information she couldn't openly discuss. Unit, Jen guessed, referring to the international organization that handled extraterrestrial and supernatural threats. Layla neither confirmed nor denied, simply continuing her setup. Let's say I've had access to materials not generally available to the scientific community. Within an hour, the command center. had transformed into a sophisticated research laboratory. Layla's equipment interfaced seamlessly with the Time Force technology, creating a monitoring system that tracked dimensional fluctuations across the globe. The central display showed the 5 major nexus points glowing with varying intensities. The Angel Grove nexus is relatively stable, Layla observed, studying the readings. Probably due to its prolonged exposure to morphing grid energy through multiple Ranger teams. Reefside shows moderate instability, likely from the recent syndicate activity. Her fingers danced across the controls, highlighting the remaining points. Tokyo, Japan shows increasing fluctuation patterns. The Australian Outback nexus remains stable but displays unusual harmonic resonance. And the 5th, she frowned, adjusting settings. The 5th nexus isn't behaving like a fixed geographical location. Its energy signature seems to move. Because it isn't a place, Naruto confirmed, moving to stand beside her. The 5th nexus is a person. Layla looked up sharply. That's theoretically impossible. Nexus points are fixed intersections in the dimensional fabric. Unless the person themselves is a dimensional intersection. Miyuki interjected, joining them at the display. A being who exists simultaneously in multiple realities. Kira completed her training exercise and approached. You mentioned this before. Who exactly is this person? Naruto and Miyuki exchanged glances, a silent communication passing between them. After a moment, Naruto nodded, and Miyuki stepped back, yielding the explanation to him. Before I answer that, he said, there's something you all need to understand about my presence here. His expression turned solemn. My journey to this dimension wasn't just about warning you of the coming crisis. In my timeline, we discovered that the dimensional collapse had a specific focal point, a person whose unique nature as a nexus between worlds made them both the key to saving reality and the most vulnerable target for corruption. And that person is, Jen prompted. We don't know yet, Naruto admitted. At least, not specifically. The records indicate, the nexus manifested fully in someone connected to the Ranger legacy, but identifying exactly who proved impossible once the dimensional barriers began failing catastrophically. Layla studied him with newfound intensity. You came back not just to warn us, but to find this person before Lord Zed Maru does. Exactly. The 5th nexus is like a quantum possibility, existing in potential until specific conditions cause it to manifest in one individual. Naruto's gaze swept across their faces. What we do know is that it's someone connected to the energy patterns we're establishing now. Someone in our immediate orbit. The implications settled over the group. One of their allies or someone they had yet to encounter carried the fate of multiple dimensions within them, possibly without knowing it. That's why you're gathering specific people, Kira realized. You're creating the conditions for this nexus person to manifest. While simultaneously building a team capable of protecting them, Jen added. Her tactical mind grasping the strategy. Naruto nodded. And developing techniques to stabilize dimensional boundaries regardless of who ultimately embodies the 5th nexus. The Almond Center's alert system interrupted, signaling an incoming transmission. Trip activated the communications array, revealing a familiar face on the main screen, a blonde woman with striking features and an air of quiet strength. This is Corone responding to Secure Channel Alpha 7 Delta. I received your message regarding dimensional anomalies. Corone, Naruto acknowledged, stepping forward. Thank you for responding. The former Pink Galaxy Ranger studied him with cautious curiosity. Your message mentioned interdimensional threats requiring my specific experience with cosmic energy manipulation. I'm currently on Earth visiting my brother, but can teleport to your location if the situation is as urgent as you indicated. It is, Naruto confirmed. We're dealing with an entity. That's combining morphing grid energy with another dimensional power source to create catastrophic breaches in reality. Corone's expression shifted subtly, recognition of the severity without panic. It was the response of someone who had faced universe-threatening crises before. Send coordinates. I'll arrive within the hour. As the transmission ended, Layla's equipment began emitting urgent alerts. She rushed to the monitors. Fingers flying over controls. Massive energy spike detected. Dimensional barrier thinning at an accelerated rate approximately 3 kilometers from our position. Location. Jen demanded, already moving toward the weapons cache. Layla's expression tightened. The Angel Grove Youth Center. They're targeting civilians, Naruto concluded grimly. Deliberate, Ely choosing a location with historical significance to the original Rangers. Tactical assessment, Miyuki asked, already equipping her specialized weapons. Divide our resources, Jen decided. Alf. The team addresses the immediate threat while the others maintain base security and continue nexus point analysis. Naruto nodded agreement. Kira, your sonic abilities will be crucial for stabilizing any dimensional breach. Miyuki, your dimensional sealing techniques provide our best containment option. You'll both come with me. I'm coming too, Jen stated in a tone that brooked no argument. Time force containment protocols might help minimize civilian exposure. I'll coordinate from here and continue calibrating my equipment, Layla offered. The readings I gather during an active incursion will help develop countermeasures. Trip, Lucas, and Katie will provide security here and help drive. Jen instructed. We'll maintain communication through secure channels. As they prepared to move out, Kira approached Naruto, her expression determined. I want to try something we discussed in training, combining my sonic abilities with chakra on a larger scale. If these Dimensio null breaches respond to harmonic frequencies, it's worth attempting, Naruto agreed. But the chakra requirements will be significant. Are you comfortable with deeper synchronization? Kira nodded without hesitation. After what we did in Reefside, the connection feels natural somehow. Something flickered in Naruto's eyes, recognition, perhaps, or confirmation of a theory. Before he could respond, Miyuki approached. Shadow Sage, she said formally, though her tone carried unusual urgency. The energy pattern has shifted. It's not consistent with previous syndicate signatures. Naruto's expression sharpened. What do you mean? The dimensional resonance lacks chakra corruption markers, Miyuki explained. This isn't the syndicate or chronomorphs. It's something else entirely. Let's move, Naruto decided. Whatever's coming through, we need to contain it before civilian casualties occur. The Angel Grove Youth Center had evolved over the years from a simple gym and juice bar to a modern community center, though it retained elements of its original charm. The current afternoon crowd consisted mostly of teenagers enjoying after-school activities, martial arts classes in one section, study groups in another, friends gathering at the refreshment counter. None of them noticed the air beginning to shimmer near the center of the main room, reality itself bending. Like heat waves rising from summer asphalt, the distortion expanded slowly, almost cautiously, as though testing the dimensional boundary before committing to breaching it. The team arrived outside, quickly assessing the situation through the large windows. Inside, the distortion had grown to nearly 2 meters in diameter, yet remarkably, the civilians remained unaware, continuing their activities. As though nothing unusual was occurring. They can't see it, Jen realized. The dimensional breach is occurring outside normal perceptual frequencies. A controlled incursion, Miyuki confirmed. Precision dimensional manipulation beyond syndicate capabilities. Naruto's expression darkened. This has Lord Zed Maru's signature. He's testing the boundaries carefully. We need to evacuate without causing panic, Jen said. If people rush the distortion, there's no telling what might happen. Kira studied the situation, then suggested, fire alarm. Simple but effective. Too chaotic, Naruto countered. We need controlled evacuation away from the breach point. Miyuki reached into her equipment pouch, extracting what appeared to be ordinary paper talismans. Genjutsu tags. Area effect illusion technique. Can create perception of minor water leak requiring evacuation. Perfect, Jen agreed. Kira and I will position ourselves to guide civilians away from the distortion zone, while you two prepare to contain whatever comes through. They split up, with Miyuki strategically placing her genjutsu tags while Jen and Kira entered the youth center through different doors. Naruto remained outside, gathering natural energy to enter sage mode, the orange pigmentation appearing around his eyes as his senses expanded to perceive energy flows across multiple dimensions. What he saw troubled him deeply. The dimensional breach wasn't just a random tear, it was a precisely calculated incision, created with intimate knowledge of this location's specific weaknesses in the fabric of reality. This wasn't opportunistic exploitation, this was targeted destabilization by someone who understood both the historical significance of Angel Grove and its unique energy patterns. Inside, Iyuki activated her tags with a subtle hand sign. Throughout the youth center, small puddles appeared to form from the ceiling, accompanied by the sound of dripping water. Staff members quickly noticed, announcing an orderly evacuation due to plumbing issues. Under Jen and Kira's guidance, the civilians moved toward exits away from the central distortion. As the last civilians cleared the building, the dimensional breach suddenly expanded, the controlled tear giving way to a pulsing portal of swirling energy. Unlike the sickly purple of syndicate rifts, this portal shimmered with prismatic light that refracted across multiple spectral ranges. Energy signature stabilizing, Miyuki reported as the team regrouped inside the now empty youth center. Breach characteristics indicate deliberate manifestation rather than random incursion. Something's coming through, Naruto warned, his sage-enhanced perception detecting movement within the dimensional rift. The air around the portal crystallized as three figures emerged, humanoid in general shape but clearly not human. Their forms appeared composed of translucent energy in vaguely anatomical configurations, with no distinct feature except glowing cores where hearts would be in humans. When they moved, they left trails of light that lingered momentarily before fading. Temporal echoes, Jen identified, her time force training immediately recognizing the entities. Manifestations of timeline guardians. The central figure stepped forward, its energy form solidifying slightly to create a more defined appearance, vaguely feminine with flowing contours that suggested robes or formal attire. Naruto Uzumaki. It spoke, its voice resonating on multiple frequencies simultaneously. Shadow Sage. Dimensional Traveler. Timeline Disruptor. Naruto straightened, lowering his hands from their defensive position but maintaining sage mode. I am Naruto Uzumaki. Who addresses me? We are the Timestream Guardians, the entity replied. Custodians of temporal and dimensional integrity across the multiverse. Your presence here creates dangerous divergence patterns. I came to prevent catastrophic dimensional collapse, Naruto countered. My actions are necessary to preserve reality itself. The Guardian's form pulsed with what might have been disapproval. Your interference alters established outcome patterns. The dimensional collapse you seek to prevent is a natural convergence event, the restoration of energy systems that were artificially separated. Kira stepped forward, indignation overriding caution. Natural. There's nothing natural about worlds being destroyed and millions dying. The Guardian's attention shifted to her, its featureless face somehow conveying clinical assessment. Kira Ford. Yellow Dino Thunder Ranger. Potential Nexus Catalyst. The classification sent a visible ripple of interest through all three entities. Your perspective is limited by your singular dimensional experience. What do you mean, Nexus Catalyst? Jen demanded, her chrono blaster held ready but not aimed directly at the entities. She possesses harmonic resonance patterns consistent with interdimensional synchronization potentiality. The Guardian explained with mechanical precision. One of several candidates for manifestation of the fifth nexus. Miyuki moved subtly, positioning herself to defend Kira if necessary. Your presence coincides with dimensional incursions targeting specific individuals. Explain. The second Guardian entity moved forward. We do not create incursions. We monitor and maintain timeline stability. The entity you call Lord Zed Maru exploits dimensional weaknesses without our sanction or approval. Then why are you here? Naruto pressed. If not to help us against this threat, what is your purpose? Correction. The first Guardian stated. Naruto Uzumaki, you are the dimensional anomaly. Your presence in this timeline creates ripple effects that destabilize established convergence patterns. You want me to return to my timeline, Naruto realized, and allow the dimensional collapse to proceed as it, naturally, should. Affirmative. The convergence of Ch. Akron networks and the morphing grid represents cosmic reunification of artificially separated energy systems. Your interference disrupts this process. Kira looked between Naruto and the Guardians, disbelief evident in her expression. You're saying the destruction of entire worlds is just some cosmic course correction? That millions of deaths are acceptable? Organic life adapts or perishes, the third Guardian stated. Speaking for the first time. Its voice carried less emotional inflection than the others, suggesting a more analytical function. Dimensional convergence creates opportunity for evolutionary advancement among surviving species. That's monstrous, Jen stated flatly. It is cosmic inevitability, the first Guardian corrected. The separation of these energy systems was the true aberration. Their convergence restores natural balance. Naruto's expression hardened, the weight of his experiences visible in his stance. I've witnessed this natural balance you describe. I've seen entire cities vanish in instants when dimensional boundaries collapsed. I've watched friends and allies torn apart at the molecular level when realities collided unpredictably. His voice remained steady but carried undeniable authority. There was nothing natural or balanced about it. The Guardians' forms pulsed with what might have been agitation. Your emotional attachment to individual outcomes blinds you to cosmic necessity. No, Naruto countered. Your detachment from individual lives blinds you to what's truly at stake. If Lord Zed-Maru succeeds in corrupting the nexus points, the dimensional collapse won't just affect our worlds, it will cascade across the entire multiverse. Is that part of your natural plan too? The Guardians went still, their energy forms dimming slightly. A silent communication seemed to pass between them before the first spoke again. The entity Zed-Maru's methods accelerate convergence beyond sustainable parameters, it admitted. Quote, his corruption of nexus points creates harmonic imbalance that threatens dimensional stability beyond acceptable variance. Then we have common ground, Jen interjected, her diplomatic training evident. Whatever your position on dimensional convergence, surely uncontrolled, corrupted collapse serves no one's interests. The second Guardian moved closer. Proposal. Temporal compromise. We will not oppose your efforts to neutralize Zed-Maru's corruption of nexus points. However, the fifth nexus must be allowed to manifest naturally, without interference. And after, Naruto challenged, if we succeed in stopping Lord Zed-Maru, will you still demand that dimensions collapse into each other? Controlled convergence over millennia rather than catastrophic collapse over decades, the third Guardian clarified. The reunification of chakra networks and the morphing grid is cosmic inevitability. The timeline can accommodate gradual adaptation. Hira looked to Naruto. Is that even possible? Slowing the process enough for worlds to adapt? Naruto considered this, his sage-enhanced perception allowing him to sense the truth in the Guardians' energy signatures. Theoretically, yes. In my timeline, we developed stabilization techniques that could have managed the convergence if implemented earlier. His gaze returned to the Guardians. But that would require centuries of careful monitoring and adjustment. Time is our domain, the first Guardian stated. If harmonic balance is restored to the nexus points, controlled convergence becomes viable. Miyuki, who had remained silent through most of the exchange, finally spoke. Your objectives and methodologies remain suspect. What guarantee exists that your definition of controlled convergence aligns with survival of our respective civilizations? The Guardians' forms pulsed again, this time with what might have been respect for the direct challenge. We offer knowledge, the first Guardian replied. Dimensional thematics beyond your current understanding. Techniques for stabilizing boundaries during transition phases. In exchange for what? Jen asked warily. Non-interference with the fifth nexus once identified. The nexus individual must be allowed to fulfill their cosmic function without manipulation from any faction. Naruto studied the entities carefully, decades of diplomatic experience informing his assessment. We need time to consider your offer. And I want proof of good faith. Actual knowledge we can use against the immediate threat, not vague promises. The Guardians conferred silently, again before the first extended its hand, a small crystalline object materializing in its palm. Dimensional harmonics algorithm. Implementation will enhance your ability to predict breach points 24 hours in advance. Jen cautiously accepted the crystal, which glowed with internal light that shifted through complex patterns. We'll have our technical experts analyze this. Time grows short, the second Guardian warned. The entity Zed-Maru accelerates his efforts. The Tokyo Nexus point shows signs of preliminary corruption. Tokyo, Hira questioned. That's one of the 5 points Layla identified. Affirmative. The convergence of technological advancement and spiritual tradition creates unique dimensional resonance in that location. The Guardian's form began to fade slightly. We will withdraw temporarily. Consider our proposal. We will return for your answer. And if we refuse, Naruto asked directly, then we cannot guarantee dimensional stability even if Zed-Maru is defeated. The third Guardian stated with cold precision. The cosmic balance requires restoration. With cooperation, adaptation is possible. Without it, extinction becomes probable. With that final warning, the three entities retreated into their portal, which contracted rapidly until it vanished with a soft pulse of light, leaving the youth center eerily silent. Well, Kira said after a moment. That was suitably ominous and cryptic. They're not wrong about Tokyo, Miyuki stated, checking a device on her wrist. Energy fluctuations at the Japanese nexus point have increased by 37% in the last hour. Jen carefully secured the crystal in a specialized containment unit from her equipment belt. We need to get this back to the command center for analysis. If it's legitimate, it could give us the advantage we need. Naruto remained silent, his expression troubled as he released Sage Mode, the orange pigmentation fading from around his eyes. You're quiet, Kira observed, moving to stand beside him. What are you thinking? That the Timestream Guardians didn't exist in my timeline, he replied softly. At least, they never revealed themselves to us. Something has changed. Something significant enough to draw their attention directly. Is that good or bad? Jen asked. I don't know, Naruto admitted. But their appearance suggests the Dimension L situation is more complex than even I understood. He turned toward the exit. We need to contact Kuron immediately and prepare for Tokyo. If Lord Zed Maru is targeting that nexus point, we need to be there to defend it. As they left the youth center, none of them noticed the small, spider-like device clinging to the ceiling corner, a technological creation with organic components that pulsed. With faint purple energy as it transmitted everything it had observed to its master. The command center hummed with renewed activity as Layla analyzed the crystal provided by the Timestream Guardians. Her specialized equipment scanned the object from multiple quantum perspectives, decoding the complex energy patterns contained within its crystalline structure. It's legitimate, she announced finally, genuine awe in her voice. The algorithms encoded in this crystal represent dimensional mathematics at least a century beyond current theoretical models. Implementing these equations into our detection systems will exponentially improve our ability to predict dimensional weak points. Could it be a trap? Jen asked, her time force training making her naturally suspicious of two convenient solutions. I don't think so, Trip offered, studying the data alongside Layla. The mathematical principles are consistent with what we know about dimensional physics, just vastly more refined. The Guardians have no reason to sabotage our efforts against Lord Zed Maru, Naruto reasoned. Their concern is with the natural convergence of dimensions, not with his corrupted acceleration of the process. Kuron, who had arrived during their absence and been briefed on the situation, studied the crystal with unique perspective. During my time as Astronema, I encountered many cosmic entities with similar perspectives, beings who viewed universal events on timescales incomprehensible to humans. Her voice carried the weight of her unusual life experience. They rarely lie directly, but their truth can be selective. The former villain-turned-ranger had integrated seamlessly into their group, her quiet confidence and extensive knowledge proving immediately valuable. She wore impulse civilian clothes, jeans and a pink blouse, but carried herself with the unmistakable presence of someone who had commanded armies and later helped save galaxies. Selective how? Kira asked. EY told you the fifth nexus must fulfill its cosmic function, but never specified what that function actually is, Kuron pointed out. That deliberate vagueness concerns me. Miyuki, who had been silently monitoring energy readings from Tokyo, looked up. Fluctuation patterns increasing. Dimensional thinning now at 53% of critical threshold. We need to move quickly, Naruto decided. Layla, how soon can you implement the Guardian algorithms into our detection systems? I've already started the integration, she replied, fingers dancing across her workstation. Basic Fu, NCT Unalities should be online within the hour, but full implementation will take longer. We don't have longer, Jen said grimly. If Tokyo is the next target, we need to be there now. Naruto nodded agreement. Time Force can transport Jen, Kira, and Kuron. Miyuki and I will travel using chakra techniques. We can create a dimensional shortcut that will get us there simultaneously. I should come too, Layla interjected. My equipment can monitor the nexus point's energy signatures in real time, giving us crucial data for defense strategies. It's dangerous, Naruto cautioned. Layla met his gaze directly. So is letting Lord Zed-Maru corrupt a nexus point because we lacked adequate scientific monitoring. A small smile touched Naruto's lips, appreciation for her determination rather than amusement. Fair point. The time jet can accommodate your equipment. What about the Timestream Guardians, offer? Lucas asked. They wanted an answer. They'll have to wait, Naruto replied. Our priority is stopping immediate dimensional corruption. We can negotiate cosmic inevitability after we prevent catastrophic collapse. As the team prepared for departure, Kira approached Naruto privately. Before we leave, I need to ask you something. About the Guardians calling you a potential Nexus catalyst. He guessed. She nodded. Am I the fifth Nexus? Is that why you sought me out specifically? Naruto considered his words carefully. You're one of several individuals with the potential to manifest as the fifth Nexus. Your natural sonic abilities create a unique harmonic bridge between chakra and morphing grid energy. But you don't know for sure if it's me. No, he admitted. The fifth Nexus manifests fully only under specific conditions we're still trying to understand. What I do know is that your abilities are crucial to our efforts regardless of whether you ultimately embody the Nexus. Kira studied him, searching for any sign of deception. Finding none, she asked the question that had been building since the Guardian's appearance. In your timeline, who was it? Who became the fifth Nexus? Pain flickered across Naruto's features, old Gree. EF briefly visible before he mastered it. We never conclusively identified them. The dimensional collapse accelerated too quickly, and we lost. He paused, emotion threatening his composure. Saint too many people who might have been the Nexus. By the time we developed the technology to make a definitive identification, it was too late. The raw honesty in his voice settled something in Kira's mind. Whatever his other motivations, his determination to prevent that outcome was genuine. Then we'd better make sure this timeline plays out differently, she said with quiet resolve. Across the command center, Miyuki observed their interaction with an unreadable expression. Her gaze lingered on Naruto's face, noting the subtle shifts in his demeanor when speaking with Kira. After a moment, she returned to her preparations, methodically checking her specialized equipment with practiced efficiency. Kuron approached her, moving with the graceful confidence that came from her unusual life journey. You care deeply for him, she observed quietly. Miyuki's hands paused almost imperceptibly before continuing their task. The Shadow Sage is my assigned protection detail. Professional dedication is expected. Of course, Kuron replied, a knowing smile touching her lips. I was Astronema for years. I recognize carefully controlled emotions when I see them. Rather than taking offense, Miyuki met the former villain's gaze directly. And I recognize someone testing boundaries to assess potential weaknesses. Instead of denying it, Kuron nodded appreciatively. Old habits. Though, now I use those skills to protect rather than destroy. As do I, Miyuki responded, an unexpected moment of understanding passing between the women. Across the room, Layla finished packing her essential equipment, pausing only when Jen approached with a Time Force standard-issue sidearm. Have you ever used one of these? The Pink Ranger asked. Layla accepted the weapon with comfortable familiarity. Ph.D. in Dimensional Physics, Doctorate in Quantum Harmonics, and Certification in Small Arms Proficiency. At Jen's surprised expression, she added, when you work with potentially reality-altering energy fields. Basic self-defense becomes a professional necessity. Remind me not to underestimate you, Jen replied with newfound respect. As final preparations completed, Naruto gathered the team for a brief tactical overview. The command center's main display showed a detailed map of Tokyo with the Nexus Point highlighted, located within an ancient temple complex surrounded by modern skyscrapers. The Tokyo Nexus has unique characteristics, he explained. It exists at the intersection of ancient spiritual tradition and cutting-edge technology, a physical manifestation of Japan's cultural duality. This makes it particularly vulnerable to Lord Zed-Maru's corruption techniques, which exploit exactly these kinds of polarities. What can we expect in terms of resistance? Jen asked, her tactical mind already formulating strategy. Based on previous patterns, Syndicate Advance Forces will attempt to establish corruption anchors at cardinal points around the Nexus. They'll be protected by both chronomorphs and specialized dimensional manipulators. Like the commander we faced in Silver Hills, Kira recalled. Similar, but potentially more evolved, Naruto confirmed. Time isn't passing the same way for Lord Zedmaru as it is for us. He exists partially outside normal dimensional constraints, which allows him to develop new weapons and tactics faster than we can counter them. So we're fighting an enemy who can learn from failures we haven't even seen yet, Layla summarized with clinical precision. Which is why adaptability is our greatest strength, Naruto responded. We'll divide into 3 teams. Gen and Miyuki will secure the perimeter and neutralize corruption anchors. Kira and I will target the central nexus point directly, using our combined chakra sonic techniques to stabilize dimensional fluctuations. Kuron and Layla will monitor energy patterns and provide tactical guidance based on real-time data. What about civilians? Kuron asked. Tokyo is one of the most densely populated cities on Earth. The temple complex is relatively isolated, and we'll coordinate with local authorities to establish a quarantine zone under the guise of structural concerns. Gen explained. Time Force has protocols for minimizing civilian exposure to temporal and dimensional anomalies. Naruto surveyed the team, individuals from different worlds, timelines, and backgrounds. United by a common purpose. The weight of leadership settled familiarly on his shoulders, accompanied by both determination and a quiet fear he would never show them. He had led similar teams before, in his timeline, and watched too many fall despite their best efforts. One final thing, he said, his voice taking on a gravity that commanded complete attention. Lore. Zedmaru doesn't just corrupt dimensions, he corrupts people. His influence can affect minds, twisting perceptions and exploiting doubts or fears. Trust your teammates and maintain communication at all times. How do we defend against mental influence? Layla asked practically. Naruto glanced at Miyuki, who removed several small paper tags from her equipment pouch. Chakra-infused protection seals, she explained. Temporary mental barrier technique. Not infallible but provides significant resistance to external manipulation. As she distributed the seals, Naruto continued, apply these to your temple. They create a chakra barrier around your mind's natural defenses. They'll feel warm initially as they synchronize with your energy signature. When everyone had applied the protective seals, Naruto moved to the command center's exit. Time Force team, prepare the transport for Tokyo coordinates. Miyuki and I will meet you there. As the others moved toward the time jet, Naruto placed a hand on Kira's shoulder. Stopping her briefly. The chakra exercises we've been practicing, you'll need them all for what's coming. Are you ready? Kira met his gaze, determination evident in her expression. As ready as anyone can be for interdimensional warfare against a cosmic villain using ninja magic. A genuine smile broke across Naruto's features, not just appreciation, but something warmer. Your adaptability reminds me of. He hesitated, then continued more quietly, of people I once knew. People who faced impossible odds with the same determined spirit. The personal nature of the comment, so different from his typically guarded references to his past, caught Kira by surprise. Before she could respond, he had already moved away, joining Miyuki to prepare their dimensional transportation technique. As the Time Force transport lifted off, Naruto and Miyuki formed synchronized hand signs. Golden energy spiraled around them, creating a localized dimensional distortio, and that seemed to fold space itself around their forms. In a flash of light, they vanished, leaving only swirling leaves where they had stood. The battle for Tokyo's nexus point was about to begin. Across dimensions, Lord Zedmaru observed the unfolding events through a viewing portal that displayed multiple timelines simultaneously. His form remained mostly shadowed, but occasional movement. TS revealed inhuman proportions, limbs too long, joints that bent in unnatural directions, skin that shifted between solid and ethereal states. The Shadow Sage moves exactly as predicted, he observed, his voice carrying harmonics that caused nearby objects to vibrate sympathetically. Gathering his allies, rushing to defend the nexus points, believing he can change what is already written. Bees. Eyed him stood a figure that appeared more conventional, humanoid, dressed in modified syndicate armor, but with eyes that glowed with the same purple energy that marked all of Zedmaru's followers. Quote, the Tokyo operation is proceeding according to your design, my lord, the commander reported. Corruption anchors are at 70% capacity. When the Rangers arrive, the trap will be fully prepared. Excellent. Lord Zed Maru's shadowed form shifted, revealing momentarily a face that combined Otsutsuki features with mechanical components reminiscent of Lord Zed's original appearance. And the fifth Nexus candidates. Being monitored as instructed, the Yellow Ranger shows increasing harmonic resonance with each chakra exposure. The Time Force Pink demonstrates dimensional stability beyond normal parameters. The scientist's analytical capacity creates unique neural pathways compatible with Nexus manifestation. The commander paused before adding, and the Anbu commanders connect. Ion to the Shadow Sage creates emotional variables that could influence manifestation patterns. Fascinating, Lord Zed Maru murmured. The Nexus seeks balance through complementary aspects: power, stability, knowledge, and emotion. Just as it did in the original timeline. He turned from the viewing portal, moving to a pedestal where a crystalline object pulsed with swirling energies, chakra and demorphing grid power forcibly merged into unstable harmony. The Timestream Guardians have revealed themselves earlier than expected, he noted. Their interference suggests dimensional instability. Has reached critical thresholds ahead of schedule. Should we accelerate our timeline? The commander inquired. No. Let the Shadow Sage believe he's changing destiny. Let him experience hope before witnessing its destruction. Lord Zed Maru placed a distorted hand over the crystal, which responded by pulsing more rapidly. After all, he taught me the most valuable lesson of all. My lord. Lord Zed Maru turned, his face emerging briefly from shadow to reveal features that combined Momoshiki Otsutsuki's pale elegance with Lord Zed's mechanical enhancements, a horrific fusion of cosmic arrogance and technological malevolence. The true path to power lies not in destroying one's enemies, he stated with cold precision, but in breaking them so completely that they destroy themselves. The crystal pulsed once more, sending a wave of corrupted energy across dimensions toward the Tokyo Nexus point. The cosmic game of chess had begun, with reality itself as the prize. Chapter 3 End. The End. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.